Every morning I clean Sydney Road and some of the surrounding streets. I often work with our crew, who are a great bunch. They're hard-working but also up for a laugh, and part of what makes me get out of bed each day. It's really quiet first thing, but there's always a lot to clean. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess and there's rubbish scattered around. I clean the footpath, the street furniture, the bins and remove graffiti off public buildings. I like it. It keeps me busy. It feels pretty satisfying to know that at the end of each day I've made Sydney Road look a little better for everyone who lives, works and visits here. Cleaner streets make it a nicer place to shop too, and that helps our local traders. And as everyone starts their day and the shop's open, I get to meet some lovely community members and their dogs. Everyone knows Sydney Road is legendary. We should all show it some love.
Libraries are the heart of our community. They connect us, inspire us, and support lifelong learning.
Whether it's borrowing books, thank you,
learning how to use computers,
getting creative in our makerspaces,
or simply having a welcoming space to belong, the library is the place to be.
We're always evolving our spaces, collections and services to meet the diverse needs of our wonderful community.
I love my library. It's a safe place to be, it's inclusive. I always find something new that interests me. It's not just the place for books anymore.
A library has something for people of all ages.
And is a place of discovery, events and learning at every stage of life.
It's
your library. Visit us today.
Did you know that Merri-bek is home to a diverse community where more than 95 languages are spoken? That's why we offer information on council services in your language. If you received a rates notice that you don't understand, would like to request a new bin, or have another question for council, we can help. We have free in-person and phone interpreters who can help you communicate with staff at council in your language. To request an interpreter, simply call 92401111 and ask one of our customer service staff to organize one for you. You can also request an interpreter at one of our customer service centers, libraries, or maternal and child health centers. At Merri-bek, we're proud of our diverse community and we want to make sure everyone can access our services. For more information about our language services, please visit our website.
Wheel Sisters came about after some women in Fawkner approached us, wanting to learn to ride bikes and also find other women from their own community to ride with, including women who might ride in hijab or an abaya. One of the things that never gets old when you teach people to ride bikes is the sheer thrill they get when they realise they can do it.
The really special thing about teaching both the women in Fawkner and the women here is just the cultural barriers that they face every day, and coming from a place where they never thought they'd ever be able to ride a bike. A lot of them do reflect that it's been their lifelong dream to ride a bike, but they never thought they'd be able to do it. So it's just that extra level of being able to gift that to somebody.
I got really excited when I heard about this program. I'm almost 40 and I've never ridden a bike. I tried when I was little. Yeah, I still can't believe that I can ride, and yeah, it's been a dream and I'm so glad that it came true.
It was excellent, very special experience for me because it was my childhood wish to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, my experience was great because I've never ridden the bike before. So it was like truly empowering for me. And I thought I can't ever learn, but Kaz was really patient and encouraging.
At this age, it's a really courageous thing to learn new things. And any age, anyone can do it if they want it. And willingness is the most important things, and that's I prove myself.
I think it's good health-wise as well as environmentally. It gives me some physical activity to incorporate into my daily routine. I think it was great to find other people like me who have recently learned to ride, and we are all well connected now. Yeah, after so many years, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity and have Cass and Faith with us, and they've been amazing teachers. Everybody should give it a go and see for themselves how easy it is. Yeah, because I never thought I could, and I'm able to do it now.
Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Nadabood, and I'm the Mayor of the Merri-bek City Council and the chairperson of tonight's council meeting. It is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. We are meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways, and would also like to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations communities who significantly contribute to the life of this city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to council's website and YouTube. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Attendees are advised that they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we will act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which will support the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of attendees. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. I'd like to introduce the other councillors in attendance tonight. To my right, Councillor Dr. Jay Iwasaki, the Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton is expected, but I think she'll be here in a minute. So Councillor Helen Davidson.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Liz Irvin.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Chris Miles.
Evening.
To my left, Councillor Helen Politis.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Adam Pulford.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Alice Svensson.
Hello, everybody.
Councillor Katarine Theodosis.
Evening, everyone.
And Councillor Oscar Yilmaz.
Hi, everybody.
I'd also like to introduce the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Sue Vucevic, and the senior management team. So we have no apologies. As I said, I'm expecting Sue in a minute. So I'll move on to disclosures of conflicts of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Great. Excellent. So I can move on to the confirmation of the previous meeting minutes. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, could I have a motion for the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting, which was held on the 10th of December 2025, and the special meeting held on the 17th of December 2025? Councillor Theodosis and Councillor Irvin to second. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillors, now that we've confirmed the minutes, we will move on to acknowledgements and other matters. There is a provision of up to 10 minutes for each of us, or for all of us, sorry, for councillors to acknowledge and recognise achievements of local individuals, organisations and raise matters considered important to council that are not already listed in the meeting agenda. Councillors, do you have any acknowledgements or other matters you'd like to raise? Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. The matter of importance that I wish to raise as we go forward in 2026 with our huge art development agenda is one of social cohesion. As we all know, it's coming under attack, and we always need to be vigilant and to be focused on rebuilding trust, unity, and a shared sense of belonging across communities. We need to be mindful of that as we develop our community. This is something that we can never take for granted, and I think that we have a real opportunity this year with the development agenda that we have ahead of us to continue to build the bridges across cultures and generations. And what that requires is that we include the voices who live in this city and ensure that their rights are honoured, and that we are building a municipality where they feel that they belong and they too can thrive. One of the best ways that we can do that is by sharing our culture through festivals and celebrations. And on that note, I'm really pleased to say that we've had some excellent festivals. We had the St. Basilios Festival and the presentation of our Lord Festival. There's been a whole range of other festivals, but we had thousands turn out. And we also are in the middle of the Brunswick Beethoven Festival. We've launched the Brunswick Music Festival, but the Brunswick Beethoven Festival is in two parts. We've just had the first part, and the second part is happening next week, and I hope to see as many members of the community out there as possible. I also hope that in 12 months' time that I can stand here and say that we have done everything as a council to show that we are one community and that proudly diverse, that we've not only talked the talk, but that we've walked the walk as well. Thank you.
Councillor Politis. Are there other councillors? Councillor Iwasaki.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to acknowledge one of our local members for Parliament, Representative for Brunswick, Tim Reid. Tim has recently announced that he has been fighting cancer for the last few months with one of the best attitudes I've ever seen in a person. I've had the pleasure to work with Tim on several long-standing issues in Brunswick and have grown increasingly grateful for his experience, his outlook, and how much he genuinely cares for the community, especially with Brunswick Brickworks as of late. I think it's really rare that there's such a universally appreciated representative, and we will truly miss him for the representative of a broad swathe of our city. I know we're all wishing him strength and healing during his fight, and I know that nearly all of us have experienced someone in our families or friends fighting cancer, including my own father with multiple myeloma. Tim's experience is a powerful reminder of the importance of preventative medicine, early detection, and equitable access to healthcare. The investment in preventative medicine saves costs, saves lives, and means fewer families have to face this journey. So in the true spirit of a doctor, I think that's the message that Tim really wants us to remember and honor. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there other councillors that would like to mention anything? Councillor Bolton?
A little bit of a promo. There's going to be a community... Sorry, thank you. A little bit of a promo. There's going to be a community meeting on tomorrow night, Thursday, 12th of Feb, about supporting our public schools in Fawkner. If anyone wants to come, it's going to be at 6:30 at Fawkner Senior Citizens. And so everyone's welcome. If you've got an interest in public education and schools, that's going to be a really important meeting organised by parents, teachers and students in the local schools. The other thing that I attended this morning was a little action organised by the founder of the Sydney Road Accessible Tram Stops Now group. And the action was in front of Jules Station with two of the key founders, a Christian historian and Amelia Savley, who are both, one of them is a wheelchair user, one uses a mobility scooter. And it was in response to the throwaway line from the Department of Transport and the government in The Age a couple of weeks ago, where they talked about the Metro Tunnel and the level crossing removal and said that people with disabilities will be catered for by accessible buses and taxis when the upfill line closes for level crossing removal in Brunswick. The purpose of the gathering this morning was to say that actually that does not cater for people with disabilities, with mobility disabilities. A lot of the accessible buses don't fit, or wheelchairs or mobility scooters, and many of the drivers have never been trained how to use the equipment and can't use it. And then also a lot of people with disabilities don't have taxi vouchers, so they pay just normal standard rates, which are incredibly expensive. And even people who do have travel vouchers as part of their NDIS plans, usually the travel component runs out very quickly because, you know, when you're trying to replace all of the usual activities that people do to get around, from recreation to work to medical appointments and visiting family, etc. And the other thing, it was also really great to attend the two Greek festivals connected to the Greek Orthodox churches in Brunswick and Coburg. I think these were really great community events and does show that those events are important for that community from a religious point of view, but also from a cultural connection point of view. And that was really, you know, there were probably a couple of thousand at the festival in Coburg and, you know, a huge crowd. I'm not sure how big, but, you know, maybe 1,000, maybe 800 at the one in Brunswick.
Thanks so much, Councillor Bolton. Are there any other things that councillors would like to mention? No, just a reminder from here that the Sydney Road Street Party happens in 2.5 weeks, which kicks off the Brunswick Music Festival. So get yourselves along to that because we're really proud of our festivals team and the work that they deliver and the vibrant musical community that exists here, and it should be a good party. Okay. Now, there are no petitions listed in the agenda. Councillor Yildiz.
Excuse me, I have a petition. Can I just quickly read the petition? West Street Shopping Strip improvements. Can I get a seconder? Do I need a seconder for the petition? No, not really.
You can actually speak to it and then we'll get you the motion organised.
We're the undersigned business owners of the West Street Shopping Strip, Hadfield, and residents of Hadfield, Glenroy and surrounding areas respectfully urge Merri-bek City Council to delay the commencement of the West Street Shopping Strip improvement works. The construction works are scheduled to commence in February and continue, I think, next week until December 2026. We are concerned that these works will cause significant disruption to local businesses, customers, residents and visitors over an extended period. Many business owners believe that the potential impacts on trade, customer access, deliveries and general amenity have not been adequately addressed. We are also concerned that the consultation with affected businesses and the local community has been insufficient and that feedback provided to Council has not been meaningfully considered prior to proceeding with the project. We call on Merri-bek City Council and councillors, all of us, to pause the project and engage in further consultation before any works commence. They commenced this petition 2 weeks ago. They've got almost 500 signatures on this.
Thanks, Councillor Yildiz. So do I have a mover for the petition? I'm assuming that will be you, Councillor Yildiz. And could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Miles. So all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Are there any other petitions, councillors, on behalf of residents? No. And now I'll move to questions of council and community statements. So the time provided for questions and statements is 30 minutes, and this time can only be extended by another 30 minutes by resolution of council. If we do not have time to answer your question, it will be taken on notice and responded to in writing. Priority will be given to questions and statements that relate to matters listed in the agenda. If time allows, questions about items other than those listed on the agenda will be considered. A maximum of 2 questions or statements in any combination is allowed per person, and questions or statements that relate to a matter listed in the agenda will be dealt with first. If you have registered to ask a question, when I invite you or your representative must state your name and suburb and then ask your question with a preamble or background for up to 3 minutes. If you've registered to make a statement, when I invite you, you or your representative must state your name and suburb and then make your statement without taking longer than 3 minutes. If you have submitted a second question or indicated that you have a second statement, it may, at my discretion, be deferred until all other persons have submitted questions, have asked their first question, or not be asked if time does not permit. A maximum of 3 questions will be heard on any one subject, and then we will proceed to the next topic. If time allows, we will return to the previous topic. I will either answer the question on behalf of council or invite another councillor to answer. Alternatively, I will ask the Chief Executive Officer to provide a response or refer it to another council officer. There will be no response or discussion in relation to community statements. As detailed in the governance rules, questions or statements may be disallowed if they are defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial or objectionable in language or substance. If a response to your question is provided at tonight's meeting, there will be no further formal response. However, Council will action any commitments made in answering the question. And I have the commencement time at 7:45. So prior to 5 p.m, Council received 2 questions and 6 statements. I think it might be, anyway, there could be an extra one, relating to agenda items and 1 question relating to a non-agenda item. So no questions were taken on notice. And I'll start with report 7.2, which was the Moving Around Merri-bek Action Plan 2025-29, adoption of the final plan, and ask Lee Zheng in person to please come forward and ask your question in person. Thank you, Lee. I'll just get you to make sure that the button on the microphone is green. Yeah, okay.
Green.
Go for it.
Okay. Good evening. Dear Mayor and the councillors, my name is Lee Zhen, and I live on Elizabeth Street in Northland Estate, North Cobra. I'm a member of the Bus 526 campaign. We are advocating for improved service on the Bus 526 route, which runs from the Cobra station along Merri Road and Elizabeth Street, terminating near the Big 4 Caravan Park. This is the only bus route services the new development at the Cobra Hill. Personally, I participate in different volunteer and community activities, taking the bus 526 3 to 4 times every day. My fellow passengers, including the young students, retirees, college workers, national and international tourists stay in the caravan park, and the residents like myself heading to events. Currently, the bus 526 runs only once every half hour, stopping at 7:30 p.m. and it's not operating on Sundays and all the public holidays. This means a poor public transport service in our area, leading to widespread complaints from the passengers. We are pleased to see that the City Council's transport strategy, moving around the Merri-bek, indicate that the City Council will advocate for the improved public transport service in the Newland area of North Cobra. The 526 bus campaign recently launched a petition requesting improved public transport service on bus route 526. The petition is supported by State Member of Parliament, Anthony Ciaffoloni. In the first 2 weeks, our petition has got over 180 signatures. We would like to get 1,000 signatures in the future. Therefore, my question is, how will the Merri-bek City Council help promote our petition requesting improvement to the bus 5 to 6 service? Thank you. By the way, when finish this meeting, I don't know how to get home because the bus stopped after 7:30. So maybe which councillor can give me a ride? Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. If you'd like to wait for the answer, we can get an answer for you. As the City Mayor, I've been attending a lot of meetings and in various different groups, including the Municipal Association of Victoria and a couple of collaborative council groups, including the M9, which is the Metro 9 councils, and the Northern Council Alliance. And in every single conversation, including the Metropolitan Transport Forum, which Councillor Irvin is a representative to, we are all talking a lot about buses.
Thank you
so I
much.
encourage you to continue, but I think I can possibly get a better answer to your question from the Director of Place and Environment, Penny Winsley.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you, Lee, very much for your question. And yeah, look, we would love to see the outcomes that you're advocating for to improve bus services in Merri-bek happen, and the improvements that your petition is proposing on the 526 route. So some of the things that we could do, we could certainly share your campaign through our social media channels, and also share it with the advisory committees that Council works with to help get your word out to people who are interested. We also, our staff regularly meet with the state government, we meet with the Department of Transport and Planning, so we're also able to refer to it and alert them to your campaign through those conversations.
Thank you. We already see the first step, a new bench of the chair already set on the Sydney Road. It's help a lot, particularly for students a lot. And second one, we hope can next year when the building finish our Cobra Station, the stop can move back to the Sydney Road. Then good for a lot of retired old people, the things. Anyway, we're very positive step by step and get council support.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you very much for coming in and for your advocacy. I'll now ask Andrea Bunting if you'd like to come forward and ask your question in person. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Mayor and Councillors. I'd also like a lift home, please. No. Happy to see the rain. Andrea Bunting from Brunswick, convener of Walk on Merri-bek. So the moving around Merri-bek consultation showed that road safety was the major concern. It is helpful if the community can understand where the road trauma hotspots are. This can help build support for road safety upgrades. And people who are injured in road crashes, or the families of people killed, are invariably wanting something to be done to improve road safety at the crash location. So good data can help guide this. So I was pleased to see that Yarra Council is now publishing details of road trauma data. And I've emailed an image of that table to councillors. The report is for fatalities and for serious injuries, those where road crash victims were admitted to hospital. And the source of this data is the Road Crash Information System maintained by the Department of Transport and Planning, which council officers can access. Now, Yarra has started publishing this data quarterly. And they include details like the location, date, light conditions, whether the road is arterial or not, whether the injured person was a vulnerable road user, age, gender, speed limit, weather conditions, and a brief description of how the crash occurred. And Yarra Council has also started publishing a brief update on the investigation and review conducted into any road fatalities or injuries from the quarter prior. Now, if Yarra Council is started doing this, then Merri-bek, because we are leaders in road safety, particularly for and encouraging vulnerable road users, I think we should be doing it too. So my question is, could Merri-bek do the same? Please also publish quarterly reports of road trauma for fatalities and serious injuries in a similar manner to Yarra Council.
Thank you for the question, Andrea. I'm going to ask Penny to answer that question for you as well.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks. And thanks very much, Andrea, for your continued advocacy and passion in this really important space. So the action plan, as you would have seen, has a commitment to regular reporting, and in terms of frequency, officers were considering an annual reporting cycle. Now, the reason for the annual reporting cycle is I understand that the RCIS data, which provides road crash and trauma information from the state government, the way that that is released can have lags in the timing. So the quarterly data can be a little inaccurate simply because it's missing pieces. It's not released consistently. That's why the annual frequency is proposed, where we can be confident that it's accurate and complete, and would also then feed into priority setting through the council's annual budget cycle. So that's what the thinking is, where the thinking is at this stage.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Okay, I'll now move to report number 7.8, which is the contract award, road reconstruction, Northumberland Road, Pascoe Vale, Arndt Road, 2 Roads Parade. And I've got Pauline Carmichael in person to read a statement. Pauline, when you're ready. Hi, Pauline.
Hi, my name is Pauline Carmichael from Pascoe Vale. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. This is a statement in regards to 7.8, which includes constructing concrete barriers as a permanent bike lane infrastructure on Northumberland Road and other design changes that have been made post the decision to make the bike lanes permanent. I understand the decision to make the bike lanes permanent was made in August 2022, 3.5 years ago. That decision was made despite the external community engagement report feedback, and I quote from that report, overall there was little support for this separated bike lane. Tonight's report says further engagement took place in 2024. I think this statement is a bit misleading. The item in June 24 was named Glenroy to Coburg Route Survey Outcome. 2 of the trusted council community groups, Climate Action Merri-bek and Merri-bek Bug, provided formal submissions, and both did not support the Pascoe Vale Shimmy route, which includes Northumberland Road. Both preferred Pascoe Street and Boundary Road, and asked Council to advocate to the Department of Transport and Planning to make this happen. The engagement was based on some very generalised survey questions. 85% of people preferred off-road paths and 62% preferred shared paths like Cardinal Road. 61% felt the current route was unsafe. So this leads me to believe that the recommendation to not make any change in 2024 was based on really no one supporting it and the majority of people not feeling safe. So here we are in 2026. Residents received a plan in June 25, a year ago, and it's stated it was subject to community consultation. Local residents, I know, have not been advised of an opportunity to consult on the design, and the letter they received does not invite feedback or a consultation process. And I've got a copy of that letter as evidence if you want to see it. So in summary, based on there being no transparency if the design is the same as what was sent to residents mid-last year, no transparency on what community engagement has taken place over the past year, no transparency of the road safety audit recommendations and how Council addressed those recommendations. At the time of the decision of making it permanent, many of the previous term councillors, or not many, some, voted, didn't actually meet with residents when requested to. And there should be learnings from the poor community engagement, poor governance over the road safety audits and the financial blowout of the Kent Road trial because council did not hear the community. And finally, there is no published road usage data since June 22 to assess if there are more vulnerable community members using the bike lane or if the number of vehicles has decreased. So I urge councillors to please separate the general road reconstruction works in the tender from the bike lane infrastructure until such time as the community is properly consulted on the design amendments and the outcome is a positive and safe one for people moving around the northern end of Northumberland Road, including to visit businesses, walk dogs and students getting to Pascoe Vale Girls' School, where it was reported by Rise North that 66% of students are from outside of the zone. Thank you for listening, but I hope you also hear.
Thanks, Pauline. I'd like to also hear from Sandra Taylor, who has a statement to make and is here in person. Hi, Sandra.
Hello everyone. My name is Sandra Taylor. I live on Northumberland Road, Pascoe Vale, opposite the bike park. So now everybody knows. So I know exactly what it's like. When the bike lanes on Northumberland Road were installed in 2020, I attended the first council meeting afterwards and made a statement about the safety of these lanes. During a long, drawn-out process, which Pauline mentioned, I took many photos and videos over the years of the dangerous actions on this section of road. Things that have occurred over the years since day one, some of these issues are still happening on a regular basis. Children under 15 ride zigzag in and out of the bollards, some of them on one wheel. All age groups of cyclists continue to ride on the footpath. Parents picking up girls after school, parking inside the lanes so they can get close to the gate. Cars speeding down the lanes, driving over the top of the bollards, which happens once or twice, sometimes 3 times weekly at the night time, so you hear it bang, 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 bang. It has been reported to the police, but the police have more important things to do than monitor the bike lanes. A number of the original bollards were chopped off, assuming by vandals, to at least half the original height. Council decided they would cut off the bollards to make it look more pleasant. I ask if the appearance of the bollards is more important than safety. At the same time, some bollards were partially chopped down, leaving the stumps. This left plenty of room for cars and bikes to zigzag through onto the road and back onto the lanes. It happens all hours of the day. The lanes have never been maintained. The only time there has been a sweep near them was after the original installation. People parking in residents' drives and refusing to move so the resident could leave or enter their property. In one incident, while a parent was parked across a drive, they verbally threatened a man, an elderly gentleman. He retreated to his house and watched a boy of about 13 years get out of the car, go to the boot, take out an iron bar and got back in the car. All because they were illegally parked. This was a 90-year-old man. No, I don't know if the police were advised. Cyclists turning right from Crowley Street into Northumberland Road cannot access the bike lane immediately because the barriers go too far up. So they continue to ride on the outside of the lanes. Cyclists travelling from the southern end and travel to the left side of the road, then cut across to enter the lanes. That is usually only to go through the park, but the lanes don't start till after the entrance of the park. Many cyclists don't use the bike lanes if turning left into Rose Parade. Delivery trucks and tradies have trouble getting their vehicles in and out Residents' Drive. mainly due to the barriers which reduce the turning space. It's happened to my plumber. Two-way traffic is a nightmare. Some travel in the middle of the road to avoid the lanes, no matter the size of the vehicle. Only one of these issues has been addressed by council. Poles were installed to stop
Sandra,
cars driving
I'll just have to get you to wrap
half
up.
a dozen lines.
Sure, thank you.
Installed to stop cars driving up the lane, but that didn't work. I'm not against bike lanes at all, provided they are where needed and wanted. If not maintained, like the lanes on Northumberland Road, all we have is installations that are overgrown with weeds growing up through the road, rubbish caught in the lanes carried by the wind, broken or fallen tree branches,
Sandra,
which are all a hazard to cyclists.
I'll just have to get you to wrap up. Otherwise, I'm obliged to give everybody the same extension of time.
One line?
Yeah. Well, we're already a minute over. So if you want to hear everyone for an extra minute,
Yeah, I
then...
understand that, but
Yeah,
you're taking
sorry.
up that time now, so
Yeah.
I could have finished it.
Okay. Thanks,
that all
Sandra.
right? Thank
you.
you.
So the next item is questions in relation to Notice of Motion 8.2, which is council support for community during extreme heat. And I have Valerie Kay in person to make a statement. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And then after we hear from Valerie, I'll hear from you, Billy. I know you've got two questions related to two different things, so I'll get you in to hear both of them. Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. My name is Valerie Kay and I live in Brunswick West. I'm talking in relation to the agenda item 8.2, council support for community during extreme heat, which proposes some measures like cool places and other facilities. I just want to say that I support the proposal and I just wish to add some comments on factors that could be considered, as well as the provision of cool places and facilities. Myself, my background is I hold a PhD in sustainability, equity and health, and I'm happy to provide further information or detailed evidence for the statements in this statement on request. I note that several of the council documents and plans mentioned in relation to the proposal are quite old, and when I was looking at them, they don't appear to have been updated or evaluated recently, so I just wanted to mention that. As is mentioned in the proposal, we experienced severe heat in Victoria this January, so it's very timely. Research on climate change suggests such heat can now be expected in Victoria every 5 years on average, and that later this century we may expect it as often as every 2 years on average. So a very serious health issue. Additional points to be considered in relation to the proposal can be grouped under the following three questions. How will people get to and from the centres? How is their health to be monitored there? And what happens when they go home? For the first question, some people, especially low-income and vulnerable groups, will travel by public transport, walking to the bus and tram stops. Air temperatures in the sun can reach over 50 centigrade and surface temperatures can reach near 70. For heat safety, shelter and seating needs to be provided at the bus and tram stops. So that's an additional measure that I think council needs to think about with the increasing heat. The second point, how can their health be monitored if vulnerable groups are using the centres? How can their health be monitored? I'm sure that people in council would already be thinking about this, but I just thought I'd mention a few points to consider about reminding people to bring their medications with them. A qualified person, not necessarily a nurse, I can understand the difficulties there, but a qualified person who has an understanding of what heat illness looks like and who might be suffering from heat illness, and registering their contact details for their health providers in case of any such thing. The third question, what happens when people go home, is a key question trying to cover all the area, especially in an extended heat wave. In extended heat, as you'll know, houses heat up and it becomes difficult to sleep. Sleep is particularly important for recovery in extended heat. air conditioning, preferably efficient reverse cycle air conditioning so it can heat and cool, is pretty much becoming a public health necessity, especially for vulnerable groups.
It flies. It really flies. But I'll have to get you to... Yeah, 3:20. If you could just wrap up, please.
Yeah, sorry. So the state government will require cooling in properties from 2027. For people on low incomes to afford air conditioning, it's important also that they can have access to solar. And so I want to encourage council to continue the low income subsidy scheme for both upgrading facilities and for access to solar.
Thank you, Valerie.
Can I just mention one more thing? I just want to mention that external shading and screens for windows are really important for being able to cool your house down. They're not covered by subsidy schemes at the moment, and I just want to recommend that they could be. Sorry, I didn't realise it was going to take so long.
It's all right. It's not uncommon that people want to speak to us. So I appreciate your energy and I appreciate you engaging with us at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I'll move on to Notice of Motion 8.3, and I'll ask Billy Ayubi, who's in person, to come forward, please. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And so, sorry, Billy, just to confirm, you're talking to 7.8, which is Northumberland Road, rather than
correct.
This Notice of Motion. Thank you.
It's great. First time doing this. My name's Billy Ayubi. I live in the area. I live in Glenroy, but work on Pascoe Street. It's like a king, if anybody knows it, on Pascoe. Ever since those bike lanes have gone in there, it's become a real hazard in the sense of turning left into Northumberland Road. Pedestrians as well walking across Northumberland to Pascoe Street, and I think it becomes Road Street, crossing that section there. There's always a bit of confusion on who goes first and who doesn't go first, especially when motorists want to usher people through going that way. There is some parking on that side of Northumberland Road, which creates a bit of a chaos when people turning left from Pascoe Street have to give way, and then traffic ends up banking up down the road. And then obviously again, it becomes a bit of a confusion of who goes first and who doesn't go first. And there has been some accidents in that area. So just to give a bit of an insight of what goes on in the area, as a person that works in the area also, we get a lot of people banking up and parking illegally in front of where we are. We're very close to that Northumberland Road area. They park illegally, no one can get through, people are beeping horns and a whole lot of it, and just creates a lot of chaos in that area. So I think that road has to have some kind of road management done to it, and probably, speaking to the local people that live in the area, especially on that road, need to be addressed too. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight of, a local working in the area and what goes on.
Thanks for your statement, Billy.
No worries.
Councillor Pulford, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the director, I believe that intersection's being redesigned through this contract potentially. One of the previous council decisions in 2022 was noting that there's going to be a redesign of Northumberland Road and Pascoe Street. Has that redesign already happened, or is this contract going to deliver that redesign?
Through you, Mayor. I think I'll take that one on notice, Councillor Pulford, and come back to you.
It'd be good just to know before we get to that item later in the meeting, if possible.
Yeah, I'm confident that it's not as part of this contract, but I will come back to you on the redesign part.
Cool.
Thanks, Billy. So I now move to the questions that were related to the Notice of Motion 8.3, and I have Nicholas Tyrrell in person if you'd like to come and read your statement. Hi, Nicholas.
Hello, Mayor and councillors. So I'm Nicholas Tyrrell from Brunswick. I'd like to make a statement regarding 8.3 on the agenda, the motion regarding Sydney Road. I'm involved in a community group advocating for changes to Sydney Road. We want to improve conditions, allocate more space for people walking, shopping, eating, riding and getting the tram. About seven or 8 years ago, there was some research into how Sydney Road was being used. Found the majority, about 70% of shoppers on Sydney Road arrived by walking, public transport or bike, less than 30% by car, and of those, only about 10% of shoppers had actually parked on Sydney Road. This is clearly not reflected in the way we allocate space on the road. Secondly, Sydney Road is also used as a thoroughfare for vehicles, which makes it dirty, noisy and dangerous, while at the same time making it one of the slowest tram routes in Melbourne. Despite that, Sydney Road is amazing and we love it, and it's a really important part of our community, so we need to be careful in how we consider all users when we're making priorities to improve it. So we need up-to-date information about how Sydney Road is being used and how the community want it to evolve in the future. So the motion to collect and analyse the data will hopefully inform the council on how to advocate for the community's needs and ensure Sydney Road continues to grow and becomes a place where people want to be. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement, Nicholas. I also had submitted actually I need to ask for an extension of time, please. Councillor Irvin and Councillor Miles, put that to the vote. All those in favour, declare that carried. Sorry, this is never in question. So I have a statement to read on behalf of Christian Asturian, who is a resident of Brunswick, that relates to the notice of motion 8.3 as well, which reads as follows. I would like to express my strong support to your motion in regard to Merri-bek Council looking at getting community feedback on improving Sydney Road and a report explaining the outcomes. This is fundamentally a great way to consult with the community, which generally is also very supportive of our Sydney Road Accessible Tram Stop campaign, because they understand it's a universal issue. The Victorian Government is currently going through developing an environmental analysis on the Skyrail for the Upfield train line, and I believe Council needs to advocate to the State Government to look at the impact on traffic and community safety on Sydney Road once the Upfield train line is closed. One last thing I would like to suggest, how making Sydney Road more accessible for everyone, including accessible tram stops, will have an economic impact on Sydney Road and therefore create a research project to show that the failure of not doing anything is having economically on Sydney Road. So that's just a statement which has been read in relation to the notice of motion 8.3. And now I will move to a non-agenda related question, which has been submitted by you, Bernie Hickey. If you'd like to make your way into the chamber, you can ask your question of council. Bernie, would you like to come and join us?
I might go get him.
Yeah.
That's okay. He's a bit hard of hearing.
Yeah. Or maybe, yeah. You might even want to read that for him, Councillor Politis. So we're just going to make sure that Bernie can make his way into the chamber so that he can ask his question, because he's been able to come here in person. Take your time, Bernie.
No, thank you.
Good on you, Bernie. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, Bernie Hickey's my name. And I'll just tell you one thing about myself before I launch into this. I had to go to the audiologist last week and she did all the tests and everything. And I came out and I said, well, what's wrong? She said, you're deaf. So just be aware of that. If you want to ask me something, just look at me like that. That's great. Thanks. And now I did a letter to council. I just want to know, did everybody get a copy?
I do believe it's been circulated to some of us, but I can make sure everyone does see it. But you read whatever you'd like to read. We get the gist so far, but we'll hear from you.
Okay, do you want a copy? I've got enough copies.
Yep, put one there with Councillor Bolton and she can pass them around if you like.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks very much, Bernie. Thanks, Bernie.
Glasses. Now, I live at 41 Hudson Street, which is an aged care place, and it's very lovely. I love it there. But there's a few little issues that I would like to get the help of the council with. It's run by Winteringham, which is a non-profit organisation. Winteringham is committed to supporting vulnerable individuals like me, I suppose, and addressing homelessness. It has 49 units with a high percentage using walking aids like myself, or mobile tractors and sticks and crutches, whatever have you. So it's not just for me and fellow residents, but the wider community has got to be considered too. My problem is with the gutters. They're very steep from the road down to the bluestone and back up again to the concrete. There's 3 driveways like that, all triple car wide, and I get a taxi regularly because I can't drive, I can't walk far, and I almost finish up on the ground most times. I get a cab. The cabs can't come up the drive into the parking areas to pick up the drop-off zones because it's too steep. The underbelly of their car, or even an SUV, will scrape along the bottom, and they don't want that. So they pull up across the way, and I have to go down and up and get the taxi driver to assist me, which is dangerous. Also the emergency services vehicles, the taxis, carers, visitors, they all have issues with damaging their cars. Mr Anthony Cianfione, is that how I spell it? State Member for Pascoe Vale has already sent a request to Council, I believe, to review this matter on our behalf, and we're yet to receive a response of any kind from Council, any kind. So we'd like this to be treated with a high priority and quotes be called in for whatever Council deems is suitable. I have sent 2 suggestions, one for those metal plates,
Yep.
I think what they're called now, and another one for those rubber plates, which are not so wide. So I've got a reasonable idea of what the prices might be. But it just seems to be going nowhere. I've spoken to one lady at Council. I sent her one email which I got a response to, which just said, we do not envisage using this type of whatever, crossing. I've written 2 or 3 times since suggesting other solutions, nothing, no reply. So now I'm asking you as a council to help me out here before someone, could be somebody's mother, falls over and breaks an ankle.
Yep.
Priority.
Let me see if we can get an answer for you, Bernie. But I just want to commend you for making the trip in here in person. I imagine you're quite an important advocate for Winteringham, and certainly in this context, so well done. And I'm sure that we can work out some kind of solution, and I'll ask the Director of City Infrastructure to talk to it. I did see Anthony Cianfione on Monday, and there's a very long list of stuff that we did discuss, and this didn't make it to the list. So you might have fallen through the cracks, which makes the value in you coming here even more important. But we'll see if Greg has any ideas. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. And I'll second that. Great to see you in here, Bernie. Really
No, I'm
appreciate
sorry,
you.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Cool. I just wanted to reiterate what the Mayor said, and I appreciate you coming in and talking to us tonight. So yeah, that's something we can definitely get officers, so get some engineers out there to have a look at.
Yep.
So generally,
So what department's that?
say that again.
What department did you say?
Our engineers, so our civil engineers.
Civil engineering. Right, that's the one we want.
Yep.
What about
so
OH&S?
OH&S, it's probably from in the public realm. It's our civil engineers that look at that space. More our OH&S teams look at our internal workforce.
It is public ground.
I think the thing is, Bernie, what we'll do is we will definitely work with you to get some kind of solution. Okay, so we'll nut out the fine details, but we've got all your details. We've met you now in person, and we can definitely, you know, the fact that you've come in here is really valuable. So thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So
Glasses case, mate. Just rough them.
Bernie will just get organised, but we're about ready to end question time at 7:25. And then we can start moving on to the council reports. And the first report we have to consider this evening is 7.1, the Pride Civic Artwork. I've heard there's no conflicts of interest, so I'm going to assume there's no conflicts to disclose and ask for a mover. And I saw your hand, Councillor Svensson, and a seconder, Councillor Pulford. Councillor Svensson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. It was almost a year ago, actually, that I sat in this chamber and asked us to imagine something quite simple but powerful, a rainbow pride artwork embedded in our public space. So today we're taking the final step to make that vision real with two pride artworks, one in the north of Merri-bek and one in the south. Because public space isn't neutral, it reflects our priorities. When we choose what we place in our shared landscape, we're choosing what and who we're willing to stand up for. These artworks are a declaration. They say to queer people out there that they belong here openly and unapologetically. They say that our city refuses the idea that anybody should have to shrink themselves in order to be safe. For young people, those walking past, watching, wondering where they fit, that visibility can be life-affirming. It tells them that their community sees them, values them, and will stand behind them. Visibility isn't trivial. Progress has always been driven by people insisting on being seen. A bright, unmistakable symbol of pride on Sydney Road facing our Brunswick Town Hall is a commitment to that tradition. It's a celebration of resilience, joy, and the ongoing fight for equality. And the latter part of this motion extends that commitment by collaborating with our community to create an artwork at the Glenroy Hub. This is about collaboration, creativity, and ensuring that our expressions of inclusion reach across our city. It's an invitation for community and artists to help shape the spaces that tell our shared story. And this motion transforms those principles into reality. It takes the values that we love to talk about, inclusion, dignity, and belonging, and it anchors them quite literally in the streets that we walk on every day. So I'm really proud to bring this final step in the process forward. Feels like it's been a long journey since then, and I really urge my colleagues to support it so we can deliver a really visible, joyful statement that our community stands for pride, solidarity, and the right of everybody to be exactly who they are.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Pulford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to speak in support of this tonight, and thank you, council officers, for your work, and to community members for giving your feedback on where you think we should celebrate the LGBTIQA plus community in our city, and yeah, add a touch of colour to our streets. I'm pleased that it's going to be on Sydney Road in Brunswick, in front of the new Michelle Guglielmo Park that council recently built there. And I think it seems appropriate that Merri-bek is finally getting a rainbow crossing or a rainbow footpath. We are a very queer community. We're a welcoming community where people feel comfortable to be themselves, to express their identity, to live their best lives. And I think this rainbow flag will help be a symbol for that and also send the message to our community that everybody is welcome here. So I believe that pretty much every councillor in this room, or every councillor in this room, signed a pledge before the 2024 council elections saying that they would support a rainbow crossing in our community. And I hope that tonight we see all councillors put that pledge into action and actually vote for putting this pride artwork in our city.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there any councillors that would like to speak in opposition to the motion? And I'm sure there are many other in opposition?
No, for.
Yeah, and just bear with me.
Oh,
I'll do
sorry.
the chairing and and I was just about to say, I imagine there are other councillors who would like to speak in support. Councillor Politis, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't here when this motion came to the chamber, but one of the things that came to mind was, oh, geez, painting stuff on the footpath. I know that there are lots of people out there who have contacted me about making the footpath safe and spending money on potholes and fixing the cracks, and they've contacted me since this motion got up. And so I'm actually responding to them tonight. I'm not a member of this community. I don't know what it's like to feel excluded and unsafe. I think that if this is what it takes for members of the community to feel part of a community, to feel that they belong, then who am I to vote against this motion? So therefore, in the interests of social cohesion, which I spoke about earlier, I will be voting in support of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Another councillor? Councillor Iwasaki.
It was about a year ago, and I remember at that time that, you know, there were people talking about, oh, if you paint one rainbow, what's next? Do we have to paint every road in Merri-bek a rainbow? And I said, no, if you've ever played Mario Kart, we know from experience that's very dangerous. We don't have enough council-operated cloud cars. I have since learned that we actually do have council-operated cloud cars, but we don't have enough. So I do not, again, support painting every road in Merri-bek a rainbow, as some critics have suggested. I support vociferously this act in front of Brunswick Town Hall and look forward to what more we can do.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there other councillors that would like to? Councillor Irvin.
Yes, thank you. Once again, I'm following Councillor Iwasaki on this. But yes, I just wanted to say that symbols are important to all of us. They're important shortcuts that represent support, solidarity, or shared values. I guess as an example of this, you know, imagine if you're traveling overseas, you're in a new place, you don't speak the language, you're a bit lost and confused. If you see someone up ahead who knows what, you know, look like they know what's going on, they have an Australian flag on their backpack, you would immediately feel a little bit safer and more connected to someone. Or even an example of a simple white ribbon on someone's lapel, just signaling that men's violence against women is unacceptable. Or you could picture yourself starting a new job. It's a workplace where you don't know anyone, but you see someone with a mug bearing the logo of your footy club, and it's an instant icebreaker and a connection that you can make. These might be trivial, but they are how we connect with each other and also how we can identify support and care for each other. And the pride flag is an important symbol that does that. It can make all the difference in how a queer person feels when they step into a place for the first time. Maybe it's a new gym, an intimidating place at the best of times, but if you see a rainbow flag, you can feel safe and welcome. We can all agree that symbols are important, But how does council decide which symbols to put where? Well, something I love about council is that, despite what it might sometimes seem, the 11 of us don't just make decisions on a whim. Council constantly develops strategies and policies based on the objectives in our council plan and community vision. And 3 years ago, our LGBTIQA+ action plan was unanimously adopted by the previous term of council. I actually have a copy with me tonight. So this action plan contains many great actions, but one in particular is relevant for the decision before us. And that is the action to deliver projects that increase signs of support towards the LGBTIQA+ communities in council buildings and infrastructure across Merri-bek. This action plan went out to the community, it was highly supported by the community, and unanimously adopted by councillors, including some who are here tonight. In my view, when council commits to a strategy or an action, we owe it to the community to see that through. It is so easy to sign up for this shiny strategy and just say the right words. Often the hard work is allocating the right resources, including funding, and implementing that action. But it's important that we do that, because otherwise we risk saying one thing and then doing another. In this case, though, this relatively small amount of funding will enable us to create a symbol of support and celebration of the LGBTIQA+ community. Because why wouldn't we want a public space that creates that same feeling of welcome and safety for queer people as a shop flying a rainbow flag?
Just conscious of the time.
Yes, sorry. I'm so excited to support this motion and this wonderful initiative for a piece of Pride civic artwork in the heart of Brunswick.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Other councillors? Councillor Bolton?
I don't have much to add, but I support the sort of comments that Councillor Irwin made about why things that might seem symbolic can be important. I mean, this is only 2 locations, but I think they are important. And I think at the moment, when there is a lot of division in society, there is a strong connection between race hate speech, anti-woman misogynist speech, and anti-queer, especially anti-trans speech. And I think basically really what we do need to do is help develop solidarity, I think, between different communities, because actually we are united on a lot more aspects than we are divided. But there are some concerted attempts being made at the moment in society to try and drive divisions between communities and scapegoat different communities for economic issues that are happening in society, which are devastating for a lot of people, but for which particular communities are not responsible. They're actually more to do with politicians or corporations or whatever. So I think it's really important to do these sorts of things. Obviously, these aren't the only sorts of things that need to be done. Symbols by themselves don't resolve the issues, but I think they are an important part of the picture.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I think the fact that some councillors in this room had threats over their support of putting the flag up is why we need to put the flag up. Not put the flag up, to paint the rainbow flag on the roads and the other things we're doing, because the fact that people have been threatened, it just shows how rife homophobia still is, that people feel so threatened by it that they would threaten other people with violence is horrible. And I can only, I'm not in that community, but I can only imagine the thought of painting a road causes someone to get that angry. You know, what's it like to live through your normal life? So I'm very happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Any other councillors who would like to speak? I'll just say a couple of things from the chair. I'm actually a little bit disappointed because we used to be a trailblazer. We used to get this stuff out of the gates before anybody else did, and we're kind of a little bit slow to the punch on this one. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that considering speculation was that this project was going to blow out to $90,000, we're about $70K under budget, which is worth noting. And I think the other thing is that's really important to mention, regardless of the minutiae on the debate in this stuff, have you been to Brunswick? Like, Brunswick is queer as folk, and we're catching up, you know. Brunswick got there before us, and our council on the inside and the outside has always been one community, proudly diverse, and this is us supporting that recommendation out there on the street, the same as we do in here in the room. So, well done. Good. I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour? And against? I'd like to declare that carried unanimously. If the people that this concerned were brave enough, there would be lots of cheers, and I know there'll be cheers at home, so well done, anyone who's been involved. 7.2, the Moving Around Merri-bek Action Plan 2025 to 2029, adoption of final plan. Does the councillor like to move this motion? Councillor Bolton? And a seconder? Councillor Irvin.
I've got an alternative. So, don't know if Councillor Irvin has seen it.
Yeah,
but
so Councillor Bolton, Councillor Irvin has indicated she has seen the alternative and she's happy to second. So
Okay,
you can talk to that and we'll get it on the screen.
So for people who might be watching online, I'm moving the councillor officers resolution, but with a couple of amendments. And the amendments include in the issue that talks about improved walking facilities, etc., to add in a point about removal of tripping hazards, of which there are many around Merri-bek. And secondly, in the area about what the council will monitor, to publish quarterly reports of road trauma for fatalities and serious injuries. And there's a bit more detail than that, but I think that is really important so that we've got not just general information when we're considering a project about what's dangerous for pedestrians and where fatalities have occurred, but very specific information about locations and causes of accidents and so on and so forth. This is a Moving Around Merri-bek action plan, so it's basically transport related, looking at trying to improve street corridors, especially principal corridors for cycling and pedestrians. There's also a section on public transport, which I think is very important for the public transport element to be really highlighted and really pushed, as well as the other components. But I think it is really important for areas which are priority cycling corridors to be for it to be really clear that that is the role of those particular corridors, so that people understand the purpose of different roads for different purposes, or that might be prioritising particular user groups, but also ditto with pedestrians, where there are many cases where major pedestrian corridors where there are interactions with other user groups and which can cause issues. So I think I haven't gone into all of the detail of this plan. People can look it up on the council agenda to see all the specific actions, but it's about to really, this plan is about to really get going because it was only adopted in late 2024, and so now the actions will be, stepped up on a range of areas.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak as a seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Moving Around Merri-bek is Council's transport strategy that was adopted in 2024. And it's a document that I'm really proud of as a councillor, really because it was developed after deep and broad engagement with the community about what transport options they currently use and what they want to be able to use in the future. And from this engagement on the strategy, we heard from over 1,000 people, with a significant proportion of surveys completed in a language other than English. And if you haven't already done so, I highly recommend reading the engagement report and seeing what people told us directly. So the item before us tonight is the action plan that allows us to implement the priorities identified in the transport strategy. We put a draft version of this out for community engagement at the end of last year, and this final version incorporates what we heard from you. The main themes of feedback align with what we regularly hear from the community. It's about improving safety, supporting walking and bike riding, equitable approaches across different areas of council, access to school and children's safety, advocacy for public transport, and a desire for clear prioritisation, evaluation, and reporting. All of this feedback was used to refine the action plan and develop the final version you see tonight. When I've spoken to residents about this plan, they have been overwhelmingly positive, and the general sentiment is one of excitement and also a sense of urgency and impatience to see many of these actions delivered. Thank you to the officers for putting this action plan together that really captures the intent and direction of our transport strategy. And thank you to everyone in the community who provided feedback or even who speaks to any of us about transport issues. It is all heard and considered and helpful for us to decide our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Are there other councillors that would like to speak? Oh, sorry, are there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? No. Any other councillors who'd like to speak in support of the amended motion? I'll just ask one question. Is it amenable to the mover and seconder that at 1B, next to the word, after insert the words, could we change, I'm just being a pedant, that word plus to and? Thanks, great. Just in case my mum ever reads this agenda. So if there are no further speakers, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. And 7.3, Councillor Pulford, I saw your hand. Is there a seconder? Councillor Iwasaki, the public art policy, 7.3. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this item seeks for Council to adopt our first public art policy. We currently have certain bits of public art that are included in developments in our city, but this is usually negotiated on a case-by-case basis. Through our art strategy consultation that we did a couple of years ago, we heard strong calls from the community that they would like to see a public art policy. The aim of this policy is to, yes, increase the amount of public art in our city, but that helps to beautify our city, make it more interesting. It also helps provide opportunities for artists, and you know, in a cost of living crisis, and we're a very creative city, a lot of our residents who are artists would be grateful, I think, for Council to increase our investment in this area and actually help support their work, help beautify our city, and give them a livelihood or contribute to their livelihood too. Council officers did a lot of work on this policy. They looked at what other councils have public art policy. We've looked at this stage in terms of funding for it. We're just going to refer it to the budget process that we'll go through this year. But the idea presented by officers that I'm supporting is that each year we kind of put a bit of extra money away to invest into public art. It can be carried forward if we don't do a project in the first year, if there's not enough money in there. But in the longer term, when we refresh our public art policy, the idea is that we might have, for example, 1% of our capital works budget go into public art. Something that I'd like to see, because we do spend so much money on capital works in our city, and doing what other councils do and allocating 1% of that money to go into public art, it might mean that a front wall of a library is more pretty or more beautiful. We're still going to be building those things, but we just think about its contribution from artists and to art as well. So yeah, very happy to support this item. Thank you to the officers for their work, and thank you to our engaged community who have called for this and influenced its development.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Councillor Iwasaki as a seconder.
Yeah, I'll just note, since Councillor Pulford put everything very well, including the background and everything, it's really great to hear that we have such an amazing team and such a strong artist community that we can actually support. It's not just that we're putting money to this to do something. We actually have this community. Not every city does, and we're really lucky to have them, and we want them to be working in our community and putting those efforts to make everywhere that we work and live and shop to be somewhere beautiful, and also to bring people into Brunswick and into Coburg and all around to really appreciate where, what we have and why it's a great place to visit and hang out in and to live.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? And Councillor Politis, you'd like to speak in support?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was really shocked that we didn't have a public art policy, because we've been very active in the public art space since the 1980s. We've got that amazing Coonahan Gallery. We've got this gorgeous artwork on the ceiling. We've got artwork all around, and we've been very active as a municipality in securing artwork, in putting it out there for public display, in engaging artists, and in drawing artists to the area. In fact, I think we are one of the most artistic municipalities in Australia. So I'm very happy to support this policy, which I thought had always been in existence.
Great, thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak? No. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. 7.4, the 2025 second quarter financial report. Councillor Irvin would like to move, and a seconder. Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak as the mover?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is one of the regular reports that comes to Council, and if you're ever interested in seeing our financial status and also kind of what we're actually delivering throughout the year, it's a really good opportunity to do that and to review this report. And this one really goes through the projects that are currently underway, and it also highlights, our current sort of financial status, like our income and expenses. And I think another thing that's important to note is that when we are doing like large capital works projects, there's normally a contingency just put in there, just if something does go wrong, we have money to, to be able to fix that or to address that. So quite often you won't spend the full amount that is budgeted. So there's a little bit of a savings that goes back into the budget, which is really good, because there are always new projects coming up, or there are changes to scope, and so it's great to have that flexibility in being able to afford to deliver projects. So overall, it's usually really good reading these reports. It's very reassuring as a councillor to know we have excellent financial management, and thank you to the team putting this together.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Svensson.
I just wanted to note that those savings that Councillor Irvin was talking about in this particular report equal about $4.5 million. So I think I like to point that out, because I think it reflects the excellent work of our officers in maintaining some really good financial sustainability. They're not small dollars. So please read the report. It gives a really good sense of where your money is going.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Would you like to speak, Councillor Politis?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I really quickly? I just want to share that across Victoria, I think there are 79 councils. I read recently that Merri-bek is one of less than 30% of councils that is financially in the black, which demonstrates the excellent financial management of this council. So I really want to commend the officers. It's a really big deal. It's something that we should be very proud of.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Are there other councillors who would like to speak to the motion? I'd just like to add one more thing about this. Q2, which is this report we're talking to, is actually almost a bit of a false economy in the way the numbers read, because if you look at the graphs, we've been tracking up, but there's a bit of a track down again coming after this. And I think that it's very important to consider some of the detail that is apparent in this report around the carryovers and the fact that we're trying to get a whole lot of work done, and when we can't, we have to do it again, then we have to finish it up the next year. So there's actually quite a lot of minutiae that's really important about this report, which is explained to us in depth at at briefings, but it's also something that I'm keeping in my mind, because we've just referred another close to $1 million for to the budget, which means we will consider how we might spend it. There are notices of motions coming that will end up with reports coming back to us where we consider spending quite a lot of money potentially. So I just think it's really important to consider that, yes, we have a very healthy budget and we're in a good position. We're entering into budget conversations together pretty soon, and we're going to have to prioritise which of those things that we've referred to the budget from the last year or two we're going to actually deliver on. So I think that the numbers part, I guess what I'm stressing is that the numbers part of this whole thing is something we take very seriously, and we have some great people here that are preparing those financial documents and explaining the detail of them for us. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next one is 7.5, the Year 1 Council Action Plan. This is the second quarter performance report. Councillor Irvin and a seconder, Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak?
Yes, it honestly feels like just yesterday that we adopted our council action plan. So it's really exciting to see this, come a performance report kind of come ahead and show our, how we're progressing. And being that it is the year one, we've obviously, a lot of things are in track. Not a lot of things have been achieved, but 2 actions have been, so that's great. And then there are a few that haven't been started or have been put on hold for various reasons. And again, this is just a really great overview of what council is actually doing and what we're delivering, which is in turn a reflection of what we heard the community's priorities are. So it's really good to, if you want to sort of keep up with what we're actually up to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Iwasaki. Anybody like to speak against the motion? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Okay, so this is 7.6, the Open Council Resolutions Report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Svensson. And a seconder, Councillor Theodosis. Sharing, please.
This is another one of our regular reports, and basically reports on all of those decisions that council's made that you might be thinking, where on earth are they and what's happening with them? So it provides an update for anything that you've gone, there hasn't been an outcome on that yet. You can read through and you can see why. And they'll tell us the work that has been progressed so far and what's left and when we can expect it by. So it's a really good place to look if you're wondering, I heard about that petition or I heard about that motion and I don't know what happened with it. So check it out.
Councillor Theodosis.
I think you've summed it up pretty well, Councillor Svensson. But yeah, thanks to council officers for their work on all the things that come through the chamber.
Thank you. Are there councillors who would like to speak against the motion? No. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried unanimously. Okay. 7.7, the governance report. Councillor Iwasaki, I saw your hand. A seconder for this motion. Councillor Irvin. Sorry, Councillor Bulford. Councillor Iwasaki, would you like to speak to this governance report, February 2026 cyclical report?
Yes, the governance report notes the records and summary of meetings and committees, as well as this one is appointing Councillor Theodosis to the Audit and Risk Committee, as we were missing a member.
Thank you.
Just wait for that. And a few other appointments as well. I'd also like to take this opportunity to speak to the 4th point about my attendance to the Ecological Society of Australia and have an opportunity to update the benefits to council from that meeting. In my capacity as the chair of the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee and deputy chair of the Northern Alliance for Greenhouse Actions, I'm always looking for how we can better improve the sustainability and climate resilience of our council. Some of the really interesting outcomes that I was able to learn about and bring back from this conference are listed on page 168, if you'd like to have a look. These go over how the City of Adelaide has integrated smaller scale nature interventions to improve water sustainability, plantings and biodiversity outcomes, and what we could learn about them. We also had residents and researchers from Melbourne, some of whom have done research in Merri-bek, present that information to the broader scientific community. And by being there, we're able to offer our support that we're here, we're listening, we take those things seriously, we're part of that, and we want to implement those learnings into our operations. One of my favorite, talks that I saw was a project that had been done in Merri-bek by a UniMelb PhD student, and they were looking at how nature-based activities can increase a sense of belonging and reduce loneliness and improve general well-being, especially for migrants and people who are more isolated. And this was done right along the Merri Creek with activities that are feasible and I think something that council can support in the future. So have a look and look forward to these benefits being implemented, not just academically, but further in our own council for the long-term benefit of the entire community.
Thank you, Councillor Hosaki. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak as a seconder? Would anyone like to speak against this motion? I'll put that to vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Now, before I move to the next item, 7.8, I just have to loop back around and follow up on some comments. So we did receive the earlier question from Councillor Pulford, and the Director of City Infrastructure has an update. Thank you. Greg?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So I can confirm that the work at that intersection has been done. So a raised threshold was constructed in 2024, and along with the line marking. So sorry about not being able to answer that earlier. I think I was confused with the roads and Pascoe change in that intersection. So yeah, those works have been completed and aren't part of this tender, this contract.
Thank you. Councillor Theodosis, yeah. Are you moving the... Oh, yeah, I was yep.
Hoping to move an alternative motion.
Yep. Do you have a seconder? Yep. And you've... Oh, sorry, I saw Councillor Miles. Just for the record, the alternate motion has been circulated, so Councillor Miles knows what he's seconding. If you'd like to talk to the motion, Councillor Theodosis.
Thank you. I'm moving this alternative which seeks to go ahead with the road reconstruction of Northumberland Road to meet our DCP requirements. However, I would like to keep the temporary bike lanes rather than installing permanent lanes, pending a review from Council, which does a community engagement with the local school and residents to get a better understanding of what the safety concerns are with the road. We've heard tonight from residents who have stated their concerns. They are very real and very valid safety concerns regarding this road. I also went down to Pascoe Vale Girls recently and I met with the principal. We walked along the road together to get an idea of what the issues are for their students, something I would encourage all councillors to do. She made a point to say that not a single student who rides their bike to school uses those lanes. They use Lake Avenue because they're not safe for them on Northumberland Road. Cars will sometimes pull into or park in the driveway gap and block the paths completely. Because of the configuration of the road and how the lanes are structured, when cars are pulling out of the driveway, they have to check for pedestrians both ways, check for cyclists both ways, and then the cars before pulling out of the driveway. The principal advised me that due to this risk for students crossing, they have to place their only allocated crossing supervisor on Northumberland Road, despite the fact that the vast majority of their foot traffic is actually on their entrance in Lake Avenue. So the school cannot have a crossing supervisor where they actually need it for students because the road is so unsafe. Cars very often park along the left side of the road. There isn't enough room for the bus to get through. There is the high school there, but also West Breen Primary on Pascoe Street, which makes it completely congested during peak hour. Residents can't get out of their driveways because there's not enough room on the road to turn out. There are too many issues with the road to allow this infrastructure to go in permanently. I am particularly concerned for the school students and their safety. I'm also speaking as someone who uses this road basically almost every single day and can attest to how chaotic the road can get. I also want to make it clear that I don't want this to be a divisive issue. I don't want one group of road users pitted against another. I want our roads to be safe for everyone and for everyone to have a say. I think we were all elected to listen to our community and hear what they are saying to us, and I think what they're saying is pretty clear, and I would urge all councillors to give residents and the local school to have the opportunity to properly have their concerns heard and addressed by stopping this from being permanent and having a review. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Sorry, Councillor Yildiz, I'll just go to the seconder and then come back to you if that's okay. Councillor Miles?
Yeah, look, I know this is probably not always the best way this has all sort of came about. This borders my ward, and I hear a lot of people at those shops where I go quite a lot talk to me about how just how dangerous it can be, especially during peak hour of turning in, turning out. And a lot of them feel that their concerns haven't been listened to, and things have just been steamrolled ahead without being listened to. So I just think, I know this is not perfect, but in some ways, you've got to break an egg to make an omelette. So I just think we need to actually look at what's going on and listen to the people in that area, people who use it. Because I know everyone's sick of me saying this, but I used to cycle quite a lot, and I feel the dual side cycleways are just far more dangerous for cyclists. I think it's more of a placebo, seeing that they are, even though they're separate from traffic, the fact that they're quite often full of rubbish, they can be quite dangerous. I mean, I know that's purely my opinion on them, but I think dual side carriageways are more dangerous for cyclists than just being on the road.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Is there a councillor that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Irvin?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm opposing this motion because I have serious concerns about the financial implications, the safety implications and governance concerns for councillors to intervene in a tender process in this way. I do hear the current concerns that have been raised by the community, including in the chamber tonight, but I guess my issue is that many of these concerns sound like they're relating to driver behaviour, or even the fact that the bike lanes as they currently are in a temporary configuration. I think a lot of these concerns have been, heard by council officers and worked through in the design for the permanent layout, and I would really expect that a lot of them would be addressed. There have been changes made to the configuration around the driveway to the school, and also a change in relation to a concern raised through a road safety audit that is putting in a raised crossing over one of the side roads. I think Northumberland Road is an important link in the Coburg to Glenroy sort of cycling route. And, from personal experience, riding in this area of our city is really dangerous. I think some of the worst run-ins I've had have been around this area. And Northumberland Road, this section of it, links a shared path and actually two shared paths at either end. And this is really important because we need to have a continuous network that is safe for people of all ages and abilities and provides the same level of infrastructure. And this means if you're going from one shared path to another, you really want to be on a piece of infrastructure that has a similar safety level. And certainly I think from what we hear about driver behaviour in this area and sort of a busy school drop-off thing, it doesn't sound like an appropriate street for mixed traffic for bike riders. So I certainly think that we need to proceed with this, with the permanent layout that's in the officer's recommendation. I think the financial issues with this alternative motion stem from we will be reconstructing the road and then putting back in the temporary infrastructure, doing a further 12-month monitoring of infrastructure that's been in place for over 4 years now, or longer. And then if it's found to be successful and we're going to head with the permanent, we'll then have to, rip up the road again partly and put in permanent infrastructure. And that could cost up to $500,000 to do. We're about to embark on going through the budget process, and all of us know how difficult it is when you want to fund the priorities that we hear from our community. It really comes down to, fighting over those last scraps of money and which projects are worthy of investment. And for me, I don't feel that this project for $500,000 merits that level of investment. I think there are so many other things that we could invest instead. And I think, in fact, if we were to go ahead with permanent infrastructure now, there will be a review period, and we would be able to put in additional safety measures if issues are still identified once the permanent layout is in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Yildiz, you're speaking in support of the motion?
Yes, because if anyone, I invite anyone to go to that corner between, let's say, 8:15 till 9 o'clock every day, and in the afternoon between 3 and 3:30, and see the chaotic issues that happen. I mean, here we are talking about safety, but that corner becomes, and that entire stretch along right up to the school crossing is quite chaotic. And for someone sitting here saying, well, I know, well, I spent 2 years of my life pretty much every day there at that morning kids crossing where I was doing yard duty there at the school, teaching at Pascoe Vale Girls. So I think I know that stretch pretty well. And I would say that since we have placed any form of bike infrastructure there, it has absolutely caused massive issues where people are avoiding that corner and avoiding that street and going around Pascoe Street and causing a whole lot of other congestion issues elsewhere. So I support your amendment, Councillor Theodosius.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Is there a councillor who would like to speak against Councillor Svensson?
I think the main point that I want to make here is that as councillors, we hold an enormous amount of responsibility to ensure that we engage in good governance. We have been really privileged with the position that we've been given, and we need to make sure that we're making responsible decisions. And that includes making responsible decisions with ratepayer money. I think this alternative motion is the opposite of that, despite, I'm sure, what comes from good intentions. We've received expert advice from our officers that by changing this motion at the last minute presents a large number of really significant risks, and the biggest risk is a financial one. If you change a contract after you've gone out to tender, it's massively disruptive for contractors. And what that means is if you start to develop a reputation that you're the sort of council who's willing to do that, not many people are going to want to work with you. So when you have fewer contractors that go out to these tenders, that means you're not going to get as good of a deal, because fewer people means they can set the prices much higher because there's much less competition. So this not only risks a significant increase in cost in the project itself, but it sets a precedent, a dangerous precedent for poor governance in decision-making moving forward and potential risk to our reputation and increased costs ongoingly. As Councillor Irvin's already noted, we're not going to save any money if we do this alternative motion. It costs about the same amount to do temporary bike lanes, we've been told. And what it means is that if at the end of these 12 months of the trial we say, you know what, exactly what we said before, we want to make permanent bike lanes, that's an extra $500,000 to have those installed. That's $500,000 we could be using to upgrade streets for essential road safety infrastructure. That's $500,000 we could be using for better social services, for more library social workers. That's a lot of money when we've been talking about lots of things that we've referred to, lots of very worthwhile things that we've referred to the budget that we're trying to find money for, and that we're potentially going to throw $500,000 out the window, which doesn't feel like a responsible decision to me. And I think it's really important to note that when we talk about bike lanes, we mustn't only talk about the people who already use them. We need to talk about the fact that more people will use them, the safer you make them. Monash University did a massive study back in 2022 that showed that 75% of people want to ride bikes but don't feel safe enough to do so. And that was especially pronounced in the outer suburbs that lack bike infrastructure. So these are the kind of places that we're talking about in this very motion. If you build safer spaces to ride bikes, people will use them because people want to. We know that. But at the moment, we know that most bike infrastructure is as simple as some painted lines on the road, which don't make people feel safe. It's separated permanent infrastructure that makes people feel safe to get out of their cars and get on their bikes.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Politis, you're speaking in support of Councillor Theodosius's motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I've listened very deeply to the arguments for and against, and I don't like wasting money. But for me, I think the safety issues need to be given primacy always, particularly where there are schools. And I know that the school in the area is a very large stakeholder, and they have spoken quite clearly about the safety concerns. They've also said that their students avoid the area because of issues related to safety. So I think that it is really important to give an opportunity for that community consultation to take place, because it sounds like there are a lot of stakeholders in the area who have not been heard. And for me, safety is always number one concern, and people in that local area are claiming that what is in place now is not safe. So I would therefore not be in favour of anything permanent going in, because we all know once it goes in, it's much harder and much more costly to reverse. We've had that experience. So therefore, I'll be voting in favour of Councillor Theodosius' amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Councillor speaking against, is that you, Councillor Bolton? Are there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? Sorry, Councillor Bolton.
I'm not keen to support this motion. I would support the officer's motion, but with some amendments, because I feel that just after we changed the scope of the tender at the last council meeting for around West Street, I think it is going to be a problem if we do this too often. And I think there were exceptional circumstances with West Street where the road safety audit was done after the community consultation, and so that what was landed on with that council decision about the West Street parking and street improvements, etc., was different to what people expected. So that I voted for that because it was extraordinary. I think if we support this tender process and the scope of it, we can also add an amendment to the report, because this doesn't mean this is the only work that needs to be done in this strip of road. I would be prepared to support the officer's resolution with some additional points where the council investigates further measures, practical measures to deal with outstanding safety issues around the school and at the intersection of Pascoe Street and Northumberland Road, and also advocate for, or join the school in advocating for a second school crossing supervisor. I would be happy to support a motion along those lines, because I don't think passing the officer's resolution means we can't make changes to improve safety. And I know I took up, when this whole issue came up, I took up some of the issues around that intersection of Pascoe Street and Northumberland Road, because it was very unsafe. I thought some of the changes that were made had made it, I think they did make it better, but it sounds like they haven't resolved all of the issues. But I am worried if we do this too frequently, then council is going to suffer with getting companies to tender for Merri-bek Council projects, and ratepayers and residents will suffer.
So can I just clarify with you, Councillor Bolton, are you foreshadowing an amended officer recommendation if this amended officer recommendation is lost?
Yes, although I think Kat might have been thinking that if there wasn't majority support for her motion, that maybe she might have had an amendment. But I could quickly whip up an amendment if that hasn't happened.
Well, we'll keep going. I think that Councillor Davidson, did you want to speak in support of Councillor Theodosius's? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm speaking in favour of Councillor Theodosius's motion. I think good governance is important, and equally as important is the fact that we're still honouring the scope of this work by continuing the project. The project goes ahead. The resurfacing of the road goes ahead. The contract still goes ahead. But a particular element of it is paused. And that relates to these bike lanes. And when you hear from a stakeholder that has 800 students, more than 800 students attend this school, and we have a principal saying to us, this is not safe, we need to review this, we have an obligation as a council to say, all right, well, the project can still go ahead. We're still honouring our obligations for aspects of the project, but we have an incredibly important stakeholder representing 800 young people who is coming to council saying, no, it's not safe. These students aren't using it. This needs to be re-looked at and considered again. And that's something that we need to really take heed of as a council and a responsible organisation, and as councillors responsible to 800 students who attend that school, the principal, the residents as well. It's an incredibly huge stakeholder to now turn around and say, well, no, we're still pursuing and pushing ahead for financial reasons, when the work can still go ahead, but we're halting this particular part of it. So I think we need to now really consider our actions moving forward, because they are going to have ramifications for a huge number of young girls that attend Pascoe Vale Girls. And if we don't do that, then we're in a position where we're turning a blind eye to a warning that has been given and a cry from a huge stakeholder. And Councillor Kat Theodosis has met with the principal, spoken to her and walked the streets herself to see what risk these children are at, and that's something that we need to be aware of and be responsible for. So for those reasons, I'm supporting the reconstruction of the road going ahead, but saying, no, we don't have to have a blanket approach to it. We can take part of it and listen to an incredible stakeholder that's coming to us with some very important information.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Iwasaki.
Yes, I'd like to speak against. Yeah, I think that everyone here is really listening to the concerns from the community and the detail of them, but that those aren't issues that are in any way resolved by this alternative motion, or that the benefits would outweigh the costs of this alternative motion. Criticisms of costs are thrown around all the time, usually when it's most convenient. But this alternative motion bears an explicit risk of increasing future costs of up to $500,000 with no accountability or offset. This alternative motion bears an explicit risk of increasing future cost to council up to $500,000 with no accountability or offset. It also bears high risk to council in regards to how we deal with contracts, and that we can just change things as we see fit and seriously degrade our reputation. That's really damaging. It's really damaging from a governance perspective and from a professional perspective. So no one is discounting anybody's concerns here. We're just trying to honor a contract and look forward to finding ways to honor the community and what those things can be. But this motion does not do that.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. I'll just speak and then you can have the right of reply, Councillor Theodosis. I want to stress how much of a pleasure it is to work with everyone in this room, because I think that we are developing a level of emotional maturity as a group which is really valuable for the community. And I think that considering we've voted almost unanimously, the fact that we're potentially almost drawn straight down the middle on this item and the way that we're going about it is a credit to all of us. And I've heard the concerns, and I think that the important thing to note about this is something that Councillor Yildiz raised initially, which is about the danger for school users and pedestrians around this school. Now, the problem I find is that every single school in our city has the same problems. The kids from Coburg Primary will tell you that. The kids from Coburg High have been telling us for years. There isn't a school in the city, except maybe Fawkner, Secondary College that doesn't come into this place and talk to us about how dangerous our roads are around school. So we have a broader problem to consider in that context, which I hope will be encouraged to address. But I've also heard the deep concerns, which are something that I was talking to officers about this morning, about this idea of changing our mind in the 11th hour of awarding a contract or altering a contract. And I'm also concerned about the idea of ripping this up in to the tune of $500,000 later down the track, because I have been banging on and on and on about the money. We've referred to the budget. So what I'm planning to do is vote against your well-prepared and considered amended motion here, with a view to hoping to support. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Bolton's amended motion, which I think does a better job of including the safety component of what I think we're all trying to address here. So I'll give Councillor Theodosis the right of reply. I've got 2 minutes. Councillor?
Thank you. I do hear the concerns around money, and I understand that. And yes, there may be savings if we do this now versus later, but for me as a councillor, I'm considering at what cost. For me, it's at the cost of potentially the safety of school children. It's at the cost of the safety of road users and cyclists. And actually, there might be further costs down the track if we end up making any big changes to the permanent infrastructure too. So in my mind, I still think having a review beforehand makes more sense rather than after. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. So I'll put your motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against? So I declare, Councillor, your motion lost.
Can I please get a division?
Of course, yep. So I'll put that to the vote again. All those in favour? Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Politis, Councillor Davidson. Oh, sorry, I should have started with Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Politis, Councillor Miles and Councillor Davidson. And against? Councillor Svensson, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Abood, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Irvin and Councillor Bolton. So I declare that lost. Councillor Bolton, would you like to put your amended councillor recommendation? 7.8. Yep, that's okay. We'll catch it up. Is there a councillor that would like? Councillor Theodosis will second.
So the motion is to add some extra points. It's not perfectly worded, but and my intention is that this happen immediately, not wait for some review. I mean, so I don't know if I need to put the word immediate in there, but basically my wording at the moment is, in addition to the above points, Council immediately begin investigating solutions to outstanding safety issues on Northumberland Road near Pascoe Vale Girls Secondary College and at the intersection of Pascoe Street and Northumberland Road. And then a second sentence or point, Council will also assist Pascoe Vale Girls Secondary School in advocating for a second school crossing supervisor. I don't know if something needs to be put in about the bus. Anyway, but maybe we should also talk to the bus company about that. I'll actually add that point in.
Yep. And I'll just, for the sake of continuity, maybe at point 4, we need to call it secondary college the second time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, secondary college.
Councillor Bolton, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would like to speak to it, and I absolutely recognise that there are safety issues, and I think there is a problem with retrofitting streets because there are often a lot of contradictory uses and issues that do happen. And I do and think it's great that Councillor Theodosis has met with Pascoe Vale Girls Secondary College principal, and I mean what they're observing is very similar to what Sandra has observed on this stretch of road and bike lane in particular. But I think we don't want to wait until the end of a process for some review in the future. I think we need to immediately start investigating potential solutions to address the specific issues that the school is experiencing. potentially the bus company as well, but also some of the observations that the man who was here earlier, I think it was Billy, observed, which is sort of similar to observations I made previously when the infrastructure first went in. So it sounds like that's not resolved. And then also, I think we've got to help the school get a second crossing supervisor as well. I think that's absolutely critical. So, and at various times, council seems to have funded them. Various times, it's the state government that's funded them. So, however we can get that, I think that's an urgent issue. And if there are any other immediate safety issues that need to be addressed in this motion, please raise them because that can be added in.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Theodosis, would you like to speak to the amended motion?
Yeah, I would also just like to ask if it's okay with the mover, could we also add in an amendment that says, oh, sorry, can I?
So, well, I'm happy to second for the sake of process,
Yeah, okay.
and I won't speak to it, but you can now propose an amendment if you like.
Yeah, just to also add where it says safety issues, assist Pasco Vale Girls Secondary College in, oh wait, no. Maybe just a point that says to address the school's concerns and local residents' concerns as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep. So maybe that could be at the end of point 3. So it needs to be at the end of point 3 to address the school's concerns and the local residents' concerns. But, yeah, point 3 instead of point 4, yeah.
Okay, so as the seconder, I think it would be prudent to add the words in relation to safety.
Yeah.
Only because we don't want a situation where
And I'm happy to accept that.
we end up reinventing the wheel, inventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak to the amendment that's been incorporated?
Yes, please. Thank you. Although it was my preference to not go ahead with this aspect of the contract at all, I do support council being proactive and trying to work out these issues with the school and the residents. So I do support this amendment.
Is there a councillor that would like to speak against this amended motion? Any councillors who would like to speak in support? Councillor Pulford, I saw your hand first, but I'm glad everyone's going up and we're about to be unanimous again.
Yeah, I'm pleased to speak to this motion. I think it helps assure local residents and the school that council will keep looking at safety in this area, and it kind of helps put to bed and finalise an issue that has been before council for more than 4 years, potentially up to 6 years. So I think one of my concerns was with the previous motion, there was discussion about community consultation, about how it's really important, that we are talking to our community. My fear would be changing tack at the very last stage of the process, like the previous motion sought to. That would have been done without community consultation. So we might have heard from a whole bunch of community members who thought the bike lanes were going to be permanent, and then suddenly at the last minute found out that council potentially weren't building them, and therefore started rallying us to make sure we did build them. So I think when we talk about community consultation, we need to think about changing tack at the last minute means that we're doing that without community understanding that, and that actually might cause another wave of feedback to council and councillors. So yeah, happy that this is pursuing with what we told the community we would do, and also looking in the future at what we can do to help improve safety in the area.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Councillor Politis.
Thank you, Mayor. I am speaking in support of this amendment, and what I particularly like is the fact that we are working with community to investigate solutions. So it's not just having a conversation where often our stakeholders and people in the community feel that maybe this is just ticking a box. This is a genuine attempt to look at possible solutions and ensure that we are prioritising safety. The concern that I have with the second point, and that is assisting the school to advocate for a school crossing supervisor, my experience of schools is that they overwhelmingly wear the financial burden of that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm overall happy to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Councillor Svensson.
I'm really happy to support this. I think it's really the best of both worlds, and I'm really cautious when I hear arguments that pit certain types of road users' safety against others. Even though other councillors have talked about not wanting to do that, I think that's essentially what the previous motion does. It pits the safety of bike users against the safety of all other users. And I think this alternative motion strikes a really nice balance that we're considering how can we make permanent bike lanes, but also look at other potential safety upgrades, because it doesn't have to be an either or. We know that good road safety, good road design considers all people's needs and doesn't prioritise just one group over others. But we know that cyclists, as I said before, overwhelmingly do not feel safe without permanent separated road infrastructure. So I think we have to do both, and it's fantastic that we're doing both here.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Irvin?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We regularly hear from the community that they want more transport options so they can get around safely, easily, sustainably, and in a healthy way. We also regularly hear parents, students, and school communities say that more transport options are needed to get students to and from school. And one part of increasing the number of transport options available to people is to make bike riding safer. In the last council term, and in this one, many people raised concerns about not being able to ride a bike due to concerns around safety, in particular in the northern half of our municipality. A key action in the council plan during the last term was to build a safe, accessible and high quality bike and pedestrian infrastructure to create links between areas of high pedestrian and cycling demand, especially the Coburg to Glenroy bike path. And it was particularly called out, this Coburg to Glenroy path, because there is a huge gap in our cycling network between these suburbs. Now, this bike lane on Northumberland Road doesn't solve this problem, but it is a critical part of the solution. One day we do want to see a completed link from Coburg to Glenroy, and we will only achieve that by filling in the missing links, not by delaying them or even tearing them out. This current bike lane on Northumberland Road was first implemented as part of a trial in 2021, and in 2022, the previous council term resolved to make the trial permanent. Now, normally, the design and the implementation would have happened virtually straight away, but officers actually noticed that Northumberland Road was due for a reconstruction in a few years' time, and delivering the permanent bike lanes as part of that project would save a lot of money. And as we got closer to the date of reconstruction, council worked on updating the designs and incorporating feedback from the community and a road safety audit. So many of the concerns we've heard that have been raised by the community have been addressed and will be addressed once the street is reconstructed. And, as well as the amendments that have been added, this report does also include a review of the street's operation 12 months post-reconstruction. And if there are still concerns or other issues that have arisen in that time, they can be addressed then. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to come together to support the, what's ahead of us, and I certainly support the officer's recommendation with those changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. I need to acknowledge I've made a mistake because I haven't asked councillors who might be like to speak against this particular amended motion. So are there any councillors who would like to speak against and or in support? And as the mover, did you want... No one spoke against, so I'll just put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Okay, so now we'll move to the notices of motion. 8.1, Councillor Bolton, venues for councillor workshops.
I'm moving an alternative or slightly amended version. Did that come through? I can't remember what time I sent it through. Yeah, that one. So basically, my amended motion.
Sorry, Councillor Bolton, I'll just see if you have a seconder for your motion. Councillor Miles.
Yeah. So for people who might be watching online, the purpose of this motion is to deal with the fact that traditionally Merri-bek Council, and I think probably a lot of other councils, have workshops of councils usually in the lead up to a budget and so forth, where councillors and council officers are taken miles out of the city to country resorts, even golf clubs and so forth, for those 2-day workshops to nut out the budget and the council plan and so forth. I've always objected to going to these sorts of luxury sort of places for these workshops. And so I'm moving a motion that council holds all councillor workshops at locations in Merri-bek or the vicinity of Merri-bek, and preferably at council venues. This would make it easier for councillors to support community activities and spend less time travelling to council workshops outside the area, while also saving ratepayers money by reducing external venue costs. And so in speaking to the motion, I think it is a very bad look for residents who are in the midst of a cost of living crisis to see us tracking off to luxurious locations for council workshops. I don't feel I need to leave Melbourne or Merri-bek to think more clearly. I think it is perfectly, while it's nice, it might be nice to be in those locations, I feel that it is, I can think just as clearly about the budget, council plans, etc., at a location in or in the vicinity of Merri-bek. I also feel that by holding these workshops within Melbourne or near or in Merri-bek, it makes it easier for councillors to support community activities that might happen maybe on the Saturday evening of a weekend workshop. And I think that is really important to be able to do that. So I think this is pretty simple to me. I don't know why it's always been such an issue in the past. And it also potentially reduces the amount of money that council has to spend on these workshops.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to quite a lot of councillors about this, and I understand the benefits of it. But just in a cost of living crisis, we've just spent, I don't know how long we just spent talking on the last thing about saving money. I know this is not a huge volume of money that we spend on these retreats that we go on, but every little bit of every little bit of money that we can save is worthwhile. I mean, I really find it hard for me now to go when we go on these sorts of things, and when I have phone calls with people within my ward about struggling to pay their rates, and then we're going off somewhere because we can't make it work doing something in Melbourne, let alone doing it in Merri-bek. I just think that it just does, as I said last time, it doesn't pass the pub test. You speak to anyone, I imagine if you go from, my ward to Councillor Pawford's ward in Glenroy, in Brunswick East, I'm sure you'd hear the same thing, that people are just shocked that we have to go that far away to do our job, that obviously, we're only paid what we are to be councillors, but we're still paid, and no one made us run for these roles. So I think that out of respect for people who are struggling at the moment, I think we should do everything to save as much money as we can on council.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Is there a councillor that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Yildiz.
Yeah. When you think of the turnover of this council, please prove me wrong. I'm happy to ask a director. It's about just over $200 million a year, if I'm not wrong. And spending, and the word luxury, I'm not sure going to, I don't even know where councils are going to on the next one, but I heard the word RACV resort in Torquay. If you call that luxurious, okay, but it's about 0.01%, not even of the budget. Any workplace, it is now mandated, workplaces must offer their staff professional development. The discussions that have in different environments, in this environment now, we've got the public watching, we've got people in the gallery watching. There are things that we can't say to each other. There are discussions we can't have right now. Whether it's political or not, when you're in an environment where you have key directors, the CEO or acting CEO there, you've got other relevant officers there, important decisions are made, important discussions are had, important relationships are built. And if you come from a corporate background, if you come from a background where you've worked in organisations where it's fantastic to know an organisation that actually says you must do 6 days of professional development, whether it's developing your management skills, your communication skills, whether it's your soft skills, whether it's your OHS, whatever it is. I just can't, whoever the mayor is, it's irrelevant. But, and I think it shows support for the mayor of that year if councillors do go to these and have discussions and plan the next year. And I find it, been in this game for 18 years and I hear this time and time again. And those that are against this, they actually don't even turn up. If you actually turned up for the entire 3 days and started to see how relationships are being built, how people are having important discussions, it's minuscule. We are spending millions and millions of dollars on things that are and this is nothing compared to what we spend. So I think limiting any councillor's opportunity for professional development, questioning any councillor, we're not exactly going to luxurious places. These aren't places where we're just so you know, people in the gallery, we don't sit there and just order cocktails and whatever. It doesn't end up being that. It's a pretty full-on 3 days. You take time off your full-time work, so it's unpaid leave or leave. You then drive an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're away from your family and friends. You can't engage in the things that you've got on the weekends, for example, kids' sport, your own sport,
Just conscious
whatever.
of the time, Councillor
I think I'm making my point clear. I'm voting against this, and I'm going to continue voting against anything that is brought up about not giving councillors the opportunity to have professional development in any capacity.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Yildiz. Councillor Pulford speaking in support.
I'd like to seek to move an amendment that would achieve some of the same goals of this notice of motion. I've sent it through to officers and to councillors only just before, 8:41 p.m.
So I'll just give Councillors Bolton and Miles a second to have a look at the proposed amendment, and we'll.
I can read it out, it's quite short.
Thank you.
That council seeks to make councillor workshops cheaper and more accessible. To help achieve this, council will only host them in locations that are accessible by public transport from Melbourne, which I think helps limit it, as the original notice of motion in the agenda did, to Melbourne. And it also seeks to achieve the aim of making them cheaper, which isn't specified at all. So
I'll just, have you had a chance to have a look at those words, Councillors Bolton and Miles?
I sort of did, but I sort of, partly this motion was partly formulated. Chris Miles, Councillor Miles, sent me some alternative wording, and I sort of modified a little bit, and that's how this motion came up.
Can I just find out if it's acceptable or not?
I sort of feel this motion is sort of a bit better. I don't feel it I do like the thing about public transport accessibility, but also just thinking, after I moved the motion last time, that Melbourne is a pretty big place. And
Sorry, Councillor Bolton.
I'm
yes?
not.
Yeah, okay. And so, Councillor Pulford, I'd need to ask you for a seconder for your... Well, actually, let me just double check, because it might just be too different. Do you have a question?
I do. I'm just seeking clarification. Does this amendment suggest that we stay in Melbourne or we go away?
in Melbourne within the range of the public transport network. So it could be to Frankston. Oh, well, I thought more like Frankston, Belgrave, Lilydale. It's quick.
Let me just clarify. Where we're at is Councillor Bolton and Councillor Miles have put a motion, and what you're doing, I think, Councillor Pulford, is foreshadowing a slightly different motion, which is not amenable as to swap out. So for the sake of process, I'll ask you if you'd like to speak against Councillor Bolton's motion, and we'll just finish that process, vote on it, whatever happens, and then...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to foreshadow that as a future motion, and basically, I think that my suggested words achieves the same goals. It makes it more accessible so people can still attend community events or attend to caring responsibilities that they might have in Merri-bek.
And I think what we'll do is get you to talk to Councillor Bolton's motion. So
Yes.
we run that process,
Sure.
and then you can talk to yours if it becomes a situation where it's put.
Sorry. So I think that as it currently stands, it's too restrictive. It's also in Merri-bek, I do think there are advantages of having overnight stays. I think that it allows for further conversations and relationship building, which is important when we're all working together. It also helps people prioritise the time to go away and actually spend that weekend. I think if it's in Merri-bek, you're going to have a lot of us just ducking in and out a lot more, and it won't provide that focus that's needed. But I do understand. So I think Merri-bek is too limiting, and the vicinity of Merri-bek, I don't really know what that means. And I think because I do think there's value to having overnight stays, I don't think it can just be at council venues unless we all bring a swag and sleep in the Meddleston Fergus Hall. But could be some too close relationship building there. So I think that don't support this, but would prefer shutting my other one.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Now, where are we at? So is there a councillor in support of Councillor Bolton's motion who would like to speak? No. So I think what I might do is I might put Councillor Bolton's...
Can I speak in reply?
Yes, you may. 2 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Bolton.
Yes. I second best option is the option that Councillor Pulford's put forward, but I would prefer to move this motion. I think it's quite clear. I totally reject the argument that this motion is limiting professional development. I don't know how you can say that. People get together for a workshop and that is professional development or actually really it is working up plans for the community, really. I don't think it should really be seen as professional development because I think we ought to be working for the community rather than just building up our CVs, personally. And so I don't see the need to certainly go to fancy places. I find it quite outrageous that's argued that we need to go to these fancy places. On the occasions when we used to have these workshops, we had 2 or 3 in a hotel in Preston. Actually, my observation is most councillors did attend for the full weekend. People didn't duck in and out because of the nature of the discussions we had. So I think people were engaged. And just as engaged as when we go on these to these retreat type places. So I also just think it is a very bad look for the community for people to see us swanning off. So I'd like to see us pass this motion, and if this goes down, I will support the motion by Councillor Pulford.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. I'll put Councillor Bolton's motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that lost. Yes, of course. So all those in favour? Councillor Bolton and Councillor Miles. Against? Councillor everyone else. Councillor Davidson, Councillor Irvin, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Aboud, Councillor Politis, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Svensson, and Councillor Theodosis, and Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Pulford, would you like to put your foreshadowed motion?
Yes.
Thank you. And you have a seconder in Councillor Svensson. Councillor, listen here, Grumpy Cat, you'll be fine. Yes, what's your question?
My main concern was about I would like to see them be made cheaper, but I just wasn't sure if we've got a workshop venue that is more expensive but more accessible versus, one that isn't as accessible but might be cheaper. Maybe it would be good to know what the priority would be in that situation.
So the way it's drafted, I think the limit of range is about where it's accessible by public transport from Melbourne. It's not necessarily saying cheaper or more accessible. So cheaper and more accessible than it currently is. I'm happy to, if we can think of words that make that a bit clearer, like if, are there any, yeah, I'm happy to add that in.
Would you like to propose something?
Both
Councillor
cheaper
Theodosis?
and more accessible?
Okay, Councillor Pulford would like to speak to the motion.
Yeah, look, I think there might be some discussion about whether V-line's included or not. I'm happy to consider that. But to me, the core of this was both cheaper, making our workshops both cheaper in a cost of living crisis and, you know, being responsible with ratepayer money, but also more accessible in the sense that if people do have care and responsibilities or other responsibilities they need to return, previously we've gone like pretty far away, like 2.5 hours drive, and that's not accessible. So I've suggested keeping it accessible by public transport. That could include a bus, it could include a train down towards Frankston Way or Belgrave or Lilydale. Like there's a lot of options, but I'll be guided by the will of the council. Like if we want to specify V-line's okay because it's still a train trip, that's only a couple of hours, then it's kind of the same thing. You're not open to that?
Sorry, councillors. Councillor Svensson as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Yes, I think that this motion achieves the best of both worlds. I think it really notes the fact that we must be responsible with ratepayer funds, and that we really should always be prioritising accessibility in everything we do, not only for our residents but also for ourselves and for our staff. They have to come to these things too. But as someone who, I am a family therapist by background, so my expertise is literally in making groups work better with each other. And I do think that there is an enormous amount of benefit in having an overnight period where we spend time together that we wouldn't usually, in learning how we can better work together. It doesn't need to be at a luxury resort. It doesn't need to be many, many hours away. But I do think there is a deep benefit in building relationships that you can't really do in this chamber right here. I'm pretty sure anybody watching feels like this isn't the best bonding moment right now, that we're probably not like learning much about each other and learning to always assume good intent of each other when we're arguing against each other and saying, I don't really like your motion because of these reasons. So I do think that this motion supports responsible governance, which I've spoken a lot about today, but also building good relationships. And you need to have a council that works well together to make good decisions. We've seen in a lot of councils around Melbourne where there's just shit fights in the chamber. And I think we're really lucky that we're not that council. And I think, that this helps, the fact that we have a culture of these sorts of workshops helps build that positive culture where we can work together.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Is there a councillor who would like to speak against this motion? Councillor Miles.
Yes, I really appreciate where Councillor Pawford's coming from. I just, as he raised himself, I could get a public transport to Warrnambool. I mean, how far are we going to go? I think we sort of need to break this down into sort of distance away. If we could say, you know, an hour away or something like that would be a better way of understanding of actually how far we're actually saying we're going to go. And that's where my concerns are, that this is just too vague of where we're going. So I can't support it in the way it is.
Sure. Are you putting your hand up to make an amendment?
So I've got one word amendment. So I thought the motion said this initially, but maybe I missed it. I must have skimmed it. So that bottom line where it says accessible by public transport for Melbourne, I thought it said accessible by public transport in Melbourne, and I would like to replace from within. So it's clear that we're talking about a venue within Melbourne.
Yes. Is that amenable to you, Councillor Pulford? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I thought that's what it said. Maybe I'm...
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. So you spoke against a councillor in support. Councillor Iwasaki.
Sure. Gosh, I really wanted to include V-Line specifically. Maybe I'd like to, I think I'd like to change it back from Melbourne, because I think there'd be real value actually in a council train ride to Swan Hill by V-Line to actually get the work done on the train. So it's not about the distance, it's about the setting.
All right, sorry, let's just stick to process. Are you proposing any amendments, Councillor Iwasaki?
No, this is fine. I
thank
spent a
you.
lot of
So
time.
You would like to speak in support
I'm speaking in
of the
favor,
motion.
yes.
Thank you.
Seriously, I spent time really trying to consider, as the deferrer of this, how to accommodate the concerns of everybody who had concerns. And I spoke to Councillors Bolton and Councillor Miles today specifically about what we could do. And in some cases, there'll be disagreements, and that's okay. But I think this achieves really the intent of Councillor Bolton that I mentioned I really sympathize with, while being able to achieve the outcomes that I think are really positive from some of the issues that I had in the first place. So that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. A councillor to speak against? What would you like to propose, Councillor Davidson? This might go round.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford.
In the
Would you like to speak against the motion?
No, I would like to, if this is the word, I would like to support.
Okay, so we're calling for a speaker. Can I just check that the gallery can't hear?
I think this is
Sorry. Okay, so
Is this not
so
an
just for the sake of process, Councillor Davidson has just proposed that word from get changed back. She did have a seconder, but it was amenable to the mover and seconder. So it's been flipped back. We're looking for a councillor to speak against it, and here I am.
Want to propose an amendment?
Oh, my lordy. No, I'm sorry. I'd like to speak against this first. Aside from the fact that it could have been prepared differently, I won't say better or worse, but just differently, so that we don't make a clown show out of this, because we've done such a brilliant job with tonight's meeting. I was the mayor when we went to Bell for our conferences, and everybody didn't show up. And I'm the mayor now, and everybody doesn't show up. And I've had long, in-depth conversations about, and take this on face value, when you're away somewhere, and in this case, I'm thinking of maybe Lansmore, which is far from luxury, and we got to share the venue with a wedding, which was absolutely exciting and resonated for us because we have Indian people in our community, and it was a mixed Indian wedding. But when you're somewhere like that, which is, I don't know, it's about an hour and 15 minutes out of Melbourne, in the bush, and many of us from very different groups went on a very long bushwalk and talked about all the things, surprisingly run into a local person there. When you're in that environment and you have a headache at the table, you just stick it out. You don't go back to your hotel room and have a sleep, right? But if you're at home, or you're a tram ride away, or you're in Frankston, you're much more likely to say, you know what, I'm going to pull the pin, I'm going home to my bed because I've got a headache and I'm exhausted and I can't do this anymore. And my concern is that when we go away to these things, and the impetus is on us to stick it out. So there is some relief. Sometimes we dress up like fools and do stupid stuff, which helps break down our egos a little bit and shows a true side to us. Sometimes we have side conversations with each other and come up with ideas together, which is really valuable. I love that thumb, Kenna, thank you. The other thing that really concerns me about this idealistic scenario of saving money for the city is somewhere like Bell is not cheap. So unless we do it right here, in which case check out the governance records because people aren't showing up to everything, we will not show up. That is my great concern. And it needs all of us in the room to represent our diverse communities to get the work done. And we're not getting paid enough money, or maybe I am as the mayor, but councillors are not getting paid enough money to justify never being asked, why don't you go away for one night, in most cases, to Lansmore, which is not a luxury venue, and Councillor Yildiz did have a point. We're not going off on yachting adventures or, it's just a night away. One of the ones we went to was in Craigieburn, you know, but it's a big conference centre, it's not cheap, we're trapped there. We have to do the work while we're there, and that is why I'm not going to support any motion that talks at all about us not doing this. I will continue to vote against these type of motions with respect. Someone like to speak in support?
I would like to, just so that we get to vote on it, reinsert the word in instead of from. I know I do have a seconder.
Right, the suggestion that I'll make is we adjourn the meeting to work this out, because we could sit here till...
Yeah, no, I
She's
believe I've got
proposing
a-
changing the word from to in back. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I did want to make an argument as to why I think it should be in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Do I have to have a motion for an adjournment?
Can we have the other two notion? Actually, could I propose that we have the other two notices of motion before this? We change the order of the agenda.
We also have confidential business.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think I'll just put up a motion for an adjournment and put it to the vote. All those in favour of a 5-minute adjournment to work this out? Against? Declare that carried. We'll just have a break and head next door for a minute, 5 minutes. Hello, everybody. So we're back. Got no idea where we're up to. Councillor, yeah, so I know that I spoke against, so now we have a speaker in support of Councillor Pulford's motion with no changes to the words at this point. Councillor Theodosis.
This was something that I was a bit torn about because, of course, we are in a cost of living and I know people are doing it really tough. But I do actually feel like this does more to address the issues around cost and money and makes it very explicit. And by not limiting it just in Melbourne, I think if we did limit it to that, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be cheaper. And then it means that people might get pulled away and they're not actually engaging with each other, which is the whole purpose of these workshops. And I do find value in finding ways to help us work together. I think we get better outcomes for our community when we work well together, and we can actually find compromises which might end up saving money down the track if we are able to work out other things together or get to know each other. And, you know, when we're in this chamber and we're debating, it can get quite heated, but being able to come out of that and get to know each other on a sort of in a different environment means that I think we can work together a lot more effectively. So that's why I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Is there a councillor against? Councillor Politis.
I'm not speaking against, I'm speaking for. These workshops are actually hard work. I think anybody who sees them as going off and, you know, swanning off actually hasn't been on one of these workshops. And they have a very clearly defined purpose, and that is to come out with the best outcome, working together as councillors for our community. And I've been on so many of them, and I think that there is so much value in being in a room with your colleagues, working on some really, really tough issues and ideas and concepts. And nothing is more effective than being stuck in a room where you actually want to get away and you want to move away from the issue. So whilst, you know, I would love not to go, I think that it is actually a necessity that we make the time as councillors. I think, is it an annual thing, to come together and look at our priorities as a council, and so therefore I'll be voting in support of it.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Councillor Pulford, I've spoken against your motion. Would you like the right of reply? I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour of... yes.
Your position was to vote against the proposed motion.
Yes.
Yes. So in the event that we vote against that, I'm just double checking, that's not it's not a foreshadow.
No.
No. Yeah. And then the status quo would remain.
That's
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I understand. Yeah.
Great.
I just realised a question that may be relevant.
A question, yep.
Just because we haven't gone on our retreat yet, should we be adding in a clause that says it doesn't affect our retreat that's happening in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, actually, for the sake of perception.
From 2027 onwards.
Just to avoid messiness.
Well done. And just to clarify to the people in the gallery and those who might be watching the meeting, we're about to commence a night away, not in a luxury retreat is my understanding, because we tend not to discuss our budget conversations. What I'm hoping is everybody comes, and I've had a lot of conversations with people to encourage that, and Councillor Svensson is making sure that this motion that Councillor Pulford has moved and she has seconded clarifies that we're not talking about this retreat we're about to go on. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. It was carried, and we haven't had a division, so it's fine. Okay, great, let's move on. 8.2, 8.2, councillor support for community during extreme heat. Councillor Bolton, and I actually saw Councillor Iwasaki to second. Is that what you were trying to do then?
No, I wanted to suggest a re-amendment.
Well, we can get to that. So Councillor Bolton, you're putting your notice of motion and Councillor Iwasaki is moving it. Councillor Bolton, would you like to hear Councillor Politis' proposed motion before you, amendment before you speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. What I'd like to propose is that under point 4A, that we remove the words such as neighbourhood houses, and the reason why I'm proposing that is because neighbourhood houses are under so much stress and so much pressure, and they really don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to be able to participate.
So can I just check if that's amenable to the mover and seconder?
It doesn't preclude them. It just doesn't put them front and centre.
For the sake of process,
I won't accept it, but I'll explain why, because
Okay,
I understand what you're saying.
So, Councillor Politis, would you like to look for a seconder for your amendment?
Well, can I speak to my motion first?
Okay. Sorry, Sue. Thank you. Go for it. Go for it.
I've talked to a lot of people about this particular motion, and it was sparked by the fact that we had some extreme heat in Melbourne, over 40 degrees, and one day I'm sure it was about the same temperature as Black Saturday in 2009, But in Melbourne also we weren't treated as badly as in northern Victoria, where it was 8 or more days above 40 degrees in a row. It was a little bit split up in Melbourne, but it was still extreme, and I can't imagine what it was like in places where it was 49.5 degrees in northern Victoria and other parts of Australia. So I've felt for a long time that governments and councils have got away with not treating heat, extreme heat, seriously, and left it to individuals to suffer through. Yes, some advice. Yes, in Merri-bek and other councils, we recommend that people go to libraries and pools. But this summer, Brunswick Library had a number of air conditioning breakdowns. Coburg Library had one, maybe more. These are just the ones I'm aware of. So that was over 30 degrees in the library, and we advertise the libraries as cool places. I think I've got a lot of points in this particular motion. I think it is an issue to do with climate change, the fact that we need to build a climate resilient community and assist the community to adapt to this extreme heat, but also it's an equity issue and a human rights issue. And also, in Australia, we rely on air conditioning as the only form of adaptation to extreme heat, which can be dangerous for people, like especially people suffering domestic violence, to be locked in a house with their abuser. This is quite a serious issue, and we can also expect much more extreme heat. Now, there are some practical measures beyond just air conditioning, and there are some neighbourhood houses that are experimenting with becoming cool centres. Now, the last time I tried to move something, and council talked to Blacktown Council in Sydney that trialled a cool centre, the whole idea of cool centres was scotched. But I think some of the issues that were raised within that trial in Sydney, it doesn't mean the idea should be scotched. It means that the approach needs to be adjusted so that what seems to be working in some areas, if a cool centre can be created where there's activities, people aren't going to go to just a big air-conditioned room with nothing to do. But, parents with young kids, you can advertise a cool centre and fund, for instance, neighbourhood houses or other community centres to become cool spaces.
and we advertise activities. There's also something that's being trialled at a neighbourhood house in Thornbury of misting systems like they use at the Australian Open, so that you can use the outdoors area even on a hot day. There's a whole lot of different points I've got in this motion that are needed, but there needs to be a holistic approach so that spaces aren't just a bare air-conditioned room, but there's activities, programs, engagement, breaking isolation, because there is an issue when...
Sorry, Councillor Bolton, I wasn't watching the clock.
I'm near the end. Okay, already. I would like to see a trial of CB Smith Reserve where there's a number of council facilities as a sort of climate resilient hub. There's a number of practical measures. I won't go through them all.
Thank you. You had a question, Councillor Pulford?
Yes, I just wasn't sure. Councillor Bolton, are you seeking to move an amended version? Because I think that's the original one that's in the report.
I was talking to the
one that you sent around.
That I sent around most recently, yeah.
So that was at 4:55, I think. It's quite a lot more detailed than that version.
Councillor Iwasaki, would you like to speak to the amended motion as the seconder?
Yes, thank you. I won't go into detail. I think Councillor Bolton has just spoke very well about the details. I will just highlight that this is one of the examples that drove me to council of where the impacts of dependence on fossil fuels puts the costs on local government and local communities. We're all suffering from greater temperatures and having to find solutions at a local level to support the community, but we don't have the funds from the mining royalties or the natural gas exploration. We just have to deal with the ramifications. So this is one of the biggest examples of how costs are put on the community to try to sort it out, and that's why that point 8 is really important. That point about approaching the government for the potential for council and state funding for such initiatives probably should have federal as well, but I'll just leave that as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Is there a councillor that would like to speak against this motion? Other councillors who would like to speak in support? Thank you, Councillor Politis.
And the amendment that I would like to propose is the removal of the reference to neighbourhood houses. I think this is a very good motion. I think everything in here is excellent. Extreme heat events mean that, we should be offering some members of the community cool spaces, even though many people in the community, vulnerable people, don't want to leave their houses. Most people would prefer to remain at home when it's 40 degree heat or over. But I spoke to a number of neighbourhood houses about this, and one of the things that they said to me was that often on extreme heat days they ask their staff to stay home and not come into work because that is the best way that they can keep their staff safe. So they're often not staffed. But even on the occasions when the neighbourhood houses are staffed, they are overwhelmingly staffed with a very low number.
Sorry, can I just, is that amenable to you?
Oh, sorry.
And so I'd need to ask for a seconder. Councillor Miles is seconding the amendment to remove neighbourhood houses.
Right, okay, thank you. Can I continue?
Yeah, keep speaking.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The other thing to note is that neighbourhood houses are not only under increasing stress and pressure, but they're overwhelmingly staffed by volunteers. So I think that putting the neighbourhood houses at the front and the centre of any proposal to support the community during extreme heat, I think actually makes this whole motion actually vulnerable to it not working. I think that removing the neighbourhood houses at the front doesn't preclude them from being examined, but it takes the heat and the pressure of them because they are actually not in a position to be able to deliver this kind of service during the during those periods of time, and that's been said to me by neighbourhood houses themselves. So that's why I'm strongly advocating that we just remove it, and the rest of the motion remains as is.
Thanks, Councillor Politis. So, Councillor Miles, would you like to talk to the proposed removal of the two words? Anybody who would like to speak to the inclusion of... Thank you. Yes, so to include them.
Yeah, sorry, yes. The positive, negative switching.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I think that Councillor Politis has raised a lot of points that might be the case for neighbourhood houses. I know that this is just receiving a report which investigates, so I imagine if we pass this with neighbourhood houses, our officers would just have a chat to the people who run the neighbourhood houses, and maybe that's the case for most of our neighbourhood houses, but maybe there is one neighbourhood house who's quite passionate about this area and is better set up. So I don't, while your concerns might all be valid, I think this is just asking us to have a conversation with the neighbourhood house and see whether it's something they want to be part of, really. So
Thank you. Councillor who would like to speak in support of removing the neighbourhood houses from the motion? Okay, what I'll do is I'll put that to the vote, the proposed amendment that's been moved by Councillor Politis and seconded by Councillor Miles. So all those in favour of removing the words neighbourhood houses? Against? I declare that lost. So the words will stay. Would you like to speak to the substantive motion, the whole thing together?
Oh,
or I can come back to you.
Yeah, no, come back to me.
Is there a councillor that would like to speak against the motion? Okay, in favour? All right, I might just say a couple of words myself. I agree with Councillor Pulford's point about the fact that it calls for receiving a report, but that's just point 5A through G, or whatever, however long it goes into. And I'm a bit concerned about how much money this spends. And I know that this is not spending the money now, but this will come back as a prescriptive report that says councillors vote to spend whatever, this is how much should be referred to the budget. And I'm really concerned about the idea of we didn't create the climate emergency and we're tasked with the idea of responding to it again, especially because of the detail that I expect might come back, which involves the fact that part of what's happening with these heat events is, for example, it was 40 degrees at 9 o'clock at night, and I have deep concern about providing safe places for people at 9 o'clock at night, potentially overnight. Like, it didn't cool down the other day. And so I'm worried that, I'm actually worried about the cost that's involved with what this report might determine that we do. But I suspect I'm the only one, and so I'm happy to just vote against or abstain, and for everyone else to do whatever they see fit. So are there other councillors who'd like to speak in support, or maybe if you would like to have the right of reply? Thank you.
I think, regardless of the cost, this is a health issue. On that 44-degree day or whatever it was different scales of that in different parts of Melbourne. Apparently, some social workers and so forth, their phones were pinging constantly with emergency announcements from health authorities and police about the extreme heat and the potential to die. And I think I think councils and governments are putting their heads in the sand by just hoping that somehow individuals can resolve it. I think there does need to be some collective solutions. Some people might be able to survive and look after themselves, but there are people who are not in that situation. And it's, I think it is a responsibility for all levels of government to look at all possible things that might work. And the bit about the neighbourhood houses isn't saying it's compulsory for neighbourhood houses. I know the City of Melbourne has funded, I think, 5 or 6 community centres, which includes neighbourhood houses, to be cool centres. And so, I mean, neighbourhood houses would have to get extra funding in order to be able to do this. But also not all, I mean, all neighbourhood houses work differently. So if people, and the wording of the motion is potential additional community centres, such as neighbourhood houses, but it's not limited to neighbourhood houses. And also the air conditioning does need to be fixed in the libraries. It's really not acceptable, and that it's, I'm not sure what the cause is. Maybe it's getting old, maybe it hasn't been maintained enough. I'm not quite sure what the issues are, but I think that's a key issue, given that council tells people to go to libraries.
Thank you,
because
Councillor
that's
Bolton.
a cool place. So I think we have to start somewhere, and we have to try and engage other councils and levels of government in trying to create a solution, because this is not sustainable.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton.
It's not sustainable to have all these deaths.
So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Abstaining? Are you abstaining, Councillor Yildiz? No. Oh, okay, sure. I would declare that carried. Sure. So all those in favour? Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Theodosis, Councillor Svensson, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Politis, Councillor Iwasaki, Councillor Irvin and Councillor Bolton. And against, and 3 abstentions, which were... Yeah, I got yours. Yeah, and so abstain was Councillor Abood, Councillor Miles and Councillor Davidson. Thank you for your guidance. Okay, we'll move to 8.3, which is the Sydney Road Notice of Motion. Councillor Pulford.
Do I have a seconder?
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Iwasaki. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Sydney Road runs from the north to the south of our city. It's the backbone of our community, really, with so much of our community's activity happening there, from our beautiful local shops and restaurants and bars and cafes and art galleries and so many other things along there. And we all love Sydney Road, but I think anyone who's been there knows that it could be so much better. Right now, when you're travelling down Sydney Road, there's not much shade. It can be really hot. But it's also, if you're walking and riding along Sydney Road, it can actually be quite dangerous. And we have had deaths on Sydney Road from people who were riding their bikes along there. Sydney Road also has no accessible tram stops from the start of Sydney Road in Brunswick at Brunswick Road up to Coburg North at Bakers Road. And that means that many members of our community who are in wheelchairs or need mobility aids or are using prams can't use the trams, a key part of our public transport. So recently, Council's been making some improvements along Sydney Road. It is a state-owned road, so we have limited powers to be able to actually change the kind of main drag, but we've taken out some old signs and street furniture to clear up some space on the footpaths. We've also built the Michelle Guglielmo Park right opposite Town Hall in Brunswick, adding some important community space and some shade and greenery for people there. And soon near Hope Street, we'll be constructing a brand new park along Sydney Road as well. So Council's doing what we can to improve Sydney Road, but with the power sitting with the Victorian government, we need to continue to advocate for change to make it a safer and greener experience for everybody. The time for change is now, because the Victorian government is planning to remove the level crossings in Brunswick on the Outfield train line. And what that means is the train line will be closed for 3 months in 2030, which would see members of our community who need accessible public transport lose their key piece of accessible public transport for that time. It would also see the upfield shared path be closed, potentially for longer. And right now, the plans to divert cyclists to other roads see cyclists riding on Bluestone, which is bumpy and unsafe. So if the Victorian government acts on Sydney Road now, they could put in some accessible tram stops, doesn't need to be on every stop. They could put in safer cycling infrastructure, and they could potentially expand the curbs as well and create more space for pedestrians and for businesses to have curbside trading. And there's a strong community campaign for accessible tram stops that's been led by many years by the Sydney Road Accessible Tram Stops Community Group. This notice of motion seeks to strengthen Council's advocacy to Victorian Government for change on Sydney Road by doing some more research on what do local traders want, what do local residents want, how do people actually get to Sydney Road? Is it by car or walking or public transport or bike? What do they do when they're there? And also looking at the car parking arrangements on Sydney Road and around Sydney Road. So I hope that council will support this tonight so we can get a report from officers on how we can get this information, restart this conversation with our community and
Pulford.
advocate to Victorian Government for change.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Can I just double check it's the amended version of your motion that you amended yourself?
Right.
I didn't want to interrupt you because I know that you know it, but before the rest of us debate it, I just want to remind councillors that it is slightly changed. Councillor Iwasaki, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Pulford, for putting forth the motion and speaking to it just now. I think, as one of the councillors for Sydney Road, I think there's several, it goes a long way. Sydney Road is changing, not just in Brunswick, but all the way up to Coburg and further north. And part of that change is the densification along the upfield train line corridor, which is, something that often is out of our control, and we welcome all of our new residents, but we also want to make sure that we can have amenity for those new residents, and that's where this plays a big role. Is we're moving in to new places. There is the same amount of car parks or less than there were 20, 30 years ago, but there's going to be thousands more people. So car parks about to be even more stressful for people, but also the conflicts are going to be more stressful. So it's important to address those conflicts and make sure that we are, understanding the needs, how things are changing, how things could be better, improved, and safer as all these changes are coming. Not just in Brunswick, in my ward with the upfield line, but even across the street from City Council in Coburg with massive new development that is not quite nearing completion, but topping out soon. So yeah, I think this is important. So that we have better understanding of how we can successfully create a livable community all along Sydney Road.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. It's only 9:30. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Pulford has just reminded me that we need to ask for an extension of time. So I'd like a motion for an extension of time. Councillor Miles and Councillor Theodosis, all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you for the reminder. Is there a councillor who would like to speak against Councillor Pulford's notice of motion?
I'd like to propose a wee amendment.
Yes, you'd let us know what it is.
My proposed amendment is that a report comes back to council by September rather than April, given the resource implications and the officers' comments.
Sure. So before your rationale, can I just maybe check with officers if back before April is doable? You think that's reasonable?
Through you, Mayor, I think in the officer comments we noted that April might be tight, but we could report something. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I thought that might have been considered, but I just wanted to make the process clear. I think it's not acceptable to the mover. Of course, yep, absolutely.
It says here that without impacting delivery of existing priorities, what is going to be affected by this work? What isn't going to be done if we do this?
Through you, Mayor, I think that was the reason for the comments saying to fully complete it. It might mean we would have to pause some other work, but to bring a report back on what we've done and what can be done, we can do that without impacting other priorities. Yep.
So do you still feel like you need to propose the amended date?
Yeah, look, I would like, I would hate to see a priorities impacted. I think we've put a lot of work into it, so
sure.
yeah, I'd like to.
Just to clarify, the comments are that getting the report back nothing will be impacted. So we can get the report back by April. It's just that we couldn't necessarily do what would be in the report. So I think that it's apparent through the notes and everything that seeking a report by April is something that officers are saying they can do without any other disruption.
Can I get clarification on that? So are we saying that the report can come back by April without it having any impact on other priorities?
Through you, Mayor, I think what the officer comments were trying to say is the report may not be complete. The report may be an update that says here's what we've been able to do, and this work is still pending within existing priorities. To complete the full scope of the report may impact. It could be quite a bit of work, but we would certainly be able to bring a progress update.
So, can I continue speaking to it?
Hang on. Do you want to propose the amendment anyhow? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would like to propose the amendment.
So is that not? Are you amenable to that proposed change? And are you suggesting that you would second it? Okay. So now what I need to do is float the idea, and feel free to speak to it now. What's happening is Councillor Politis has proposed that rather than it comes back to the April meeting, did you say September meeting is the proposal?
Thinking 6 months. Is September 6 months? A 6-month period to allow.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
October.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to make it August.
Okay, August. So would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I think this is about ensuring that we're giving ourselves sufficient time to do this report sufficiently. There's quite a lot in it. So we all love Sydney Road. The issue of accessible tram stops is an issue that has been in debate for the better part of almost two decades. There's strong advocacy going on there. There's a whole lot of other works going on in lots of other areas, and I think to do this kind of report on this magnitude, which impacts so many areas, proper justice, I would like to see it given the priority that this report deserves, and I wouldn't want to see other existing priorities impacted, particularly at a time when we are already, paddling like sort of, ducks that are glide on the water and underneath going rapidly to advocate to state government on some of the development stuff that's going on, the big build. I know there's lots of advocacy going on around all the big projects. We all know what they are. So I think given that resources at council are really stretched, we've got some really big ticket items going on. I think to do this justice, we need to give it some time rather than get a partial report, which is going to have to come back at a later date. Let's do it well, let's plan for it, and let's give it the sufficient time and space that this sort of report deserves.
Thank you, Councillor Politis. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Yeah, I would just like just a complete report, not a half-baked report. And so I just think just giving it the time it needs to breathe and get the work done properly is just far better use of our time as councillors to have a full report coming back when it's fully done.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Is there a councillor who would like to speak again? Councillor Pulford.
Thank you. Councillors haven't asked why I put April 2026. That was because I wanted this to be able to help influence our budget conversations, because if we're saying the window to act on Sydney Road is now, and we expect the upfield works to start in 2027, although the train wouldn't close to 2030. I think we need to, because this will take time having this conversation with our community, doing the survey work. I want it to, and officers have said they can give us back the information they've got by April. That can help influence us in our budget. Maybe we would put in a little bit of money this year, and maybe we'd put in more money in the future year if we can afford it, depending on other people's priorities. But the point was to get that info so we can make these considered decisions as we're doing the budget. We passed the draft budget in April. There's still time to influence the final budget in June or July. But if the window of change, the opportunity for change is now, we need to act now. And so that's why I put April 2026. And this is asking for, it's not asking to do the surveys or anything by then, it's asking for what are ways we could try and get this information. So yeah, I hope that councillors don't support this amendment, or if they do want to give more time than April, rather than just pick a date like August, could we ask officers how long would they think that they would need, and then we can potentially put that month in rather than just picking a random date.
Are you asking that question now of officers?
No, I'm saying I would encourage councillors to vote against this amendment, get what we can in April to influence our conversations this year, but if you really are concerned about that, can someone ask the question of officers when it should be and foreshadow that amendment if they are really concerned?
A councillor in support of the changing April to August?
Can I ask that question of officers?
Yeah, you can.
Like, for instance, would an extra month enable the full report, do you think? Or
Through you, Mayor, yeah, potentially. There's just quite a, it is quite important scope that would need quite a lot of cross-council sort of thinking to come to a landing. So potentially, yeah. I think we talked about the possibility of leaving it open, but yeah, an extra month, because April is effectively 6 working weeks from tonight to finish it, whereas May would, yeah.
So we'll just keep debating that August change for the change. No, I think what I'll do is put it to the vote that we go back to April or change it to August. So all those in favour of changing that word to August rather than April? Against? So I declare that lost, so it goes back to April.
I'd just like to propose we may. I mean, I think Councillor Pulford's got a good argument as to why he was wanting April. But if it does mean we get a more complete report back by May, I think I can understand the budget discussions, but I think that would be better. But there is a certain time of urgency because of the level crossing removal. So I think, yeah, I'd
Are you
rather
amenable
early
to
rather
that
than
change? You're happy with May? Okay. So that's been incorporated into the substantive. Thanks, Councillor Walton. So now I need, are there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion and then in support of the motion? Councillor Irvin. What was that, Councillor Bolton?
I'd just like to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be quick.
We'll get there. I'd like that too.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councillor Pulford for putting this forward. I think it's really important work. You know, Sydney Road is no longer the road to Sydney. It's a really important heart of our community and it's a really important place. And I think quite often we see with these roads that there is this tension between its role as a movement corridor and its role as a place where people, you know, ideally want to hang out and socialise. And so I think that this is kind of one step towards ensuring that we can make the most of the opportunity of the level crossing removal, also, you know, make improvements to Sydney Road because it definitely deserves it, and to get really good information from the community about how we can go about doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? I just would like to commend Councillor Pulford on this motion. This is something that was identified in the feedback about Central Coburg, is what is our plan for Coburg. And I think that the detail around the timing of what else we expect to have happen in the city is significant. I mean, if the council had its way, the level crossing removals would have all been done in one fell swoop, was what we had proposed way back when. So while we accommodate the fact that the Metro Tunnel was built even though it doesn't serve the north, and we wait for what does serve the north, I think it's okay if we ask people how Sydney Road can work better for those people that use it. So I'll put it, no one spoke again. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? And I declare that carried unanimously as well. Okay, so we've come to the end of the motions. There are no notices of rescission, which is good. Foreshadowed items. Councillors, do you have any items that you would like to foreshadow that may be the subject of a notice of motion for the next council meeting? Oh, Councillor Irvin.
No one ever does it.
No, somebody did, but it never eventuated.
Yes, I just wanted to foreshadow a motion relating to Vic Health, which is Victoria's Independent Health Promotion Foundation, that, you know, due to recent kind of budget reviews by the state government, there's a proposal to abolish Vic Health, and it does play such an important role. I mean, we heard earlier tonight about, you know, Tim Reed's cancer, and you know, they really started sort of promotion around sun safety, and, you know, who knows how many you know, cancers that's prevented. And there are so many aspects of our society where Vic Health plays a role. So we'll be introducing a motion just to try and support that.
Thanks for the heads up. Are there other councillors that would like to foreshadow any motions for the future? Okay, so I'll move to urgent business, and there is none. And then I can move to closing the meeting to the public. So could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Davidson, and a seconder. Councillor Theodosis, I'll put that to the vote. I declare that carried. Thanks everybody who's watching the live stream, and for your interest in council matters, and I wish you a good night. And I now declare the council meeting closed to the public at 9:55.